Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Tuesday, July 15th. We are here 10 minutes early. Technically, the stream was scheduled for 8:20, so we are actually just on time. And the reason we are live, actually 25 minutes early before we start, usually we start at 8:45 every day, is because we got CPI. We got CPI coming out in 10 minutes, 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And so we are going to see what happens with CPI. I think the pre-markets, outside of kind of one stock that you all probably know about by now, are red, even though the companies that in the pre-market had earnings, crushed earnings, are still red because the market is a bit afraid. And we'll see if that fear is justified or not when it comes to CPI. And so we're going to be seeing if CPI is hot, if it's cold, and how the market kind of reacts to it. But this is what we're looking at in about 10 minutes once this information comes out. Now, the big story of the day, like the single most important story of the day, and it is leading to some fun in the pre-markets, particularly for two companies, is Nvidia. Nvidia and AMD. Nvidia right here, 171, crosses 170, well over 4 trillion. 170.131 right here in the pre-markets. Last night on the Tech Bros podcast with Tanner and Roy, we saw the news come out. The news, for those that don't know, is that Nvidia is now going to be able to sell chips into China. The same H20 GPU that results in about $20 billion of annualized revenue for them. And they'll be able to start that this quarter going into the rest of the year. And we'll get more details on that. We'll talk a lot more about that today. But that's helping Nvidia, and that's really helping AMD. I think for a lot of you, the AMD run right here has got to feel pretty damn good. AMD 153, up about 5%. S&P 500 is also up, but you got a lot of stocks that are kind of flat to down in the pre-markets, especially the banks like a JP Morgan. That's red. Like a BlackRock, that's red. Like a Wells Fargo, that's red. A lot of these companies had some really good earnings. Why are they red? I think the street's a little worried about CPI. You would think Nvidia plus those earnings would crush those stocks and allow them to the upside, right? And allow, because they crushed earnings and those stocks would gain momentum, but they're not. The real stocks that are moving are Nvidia and AMD and some of the other semiconductor names, and they should be moving. But I think CPI is kind of the holdup for the entire market moving with Nvidia, because you would imagine the entire market could move with Nvidia. And so if we get a good CPI and we have this Nvidia news continue to stay how it is, this could be a very, very, very exciting day. But in about 7 minutes, we're going to see what happens with CPI. It's a big deal, folks. It's a big deal. Here's what Nvidia put out in an official statement. This is not just people, and rumors about if they're going to be able to sell into the United States. They have given us official confirmation. Huang also provided an update to customers, noting that Nvidia is filing applications to sell the Nvidia H20 GPU again. The U.S. government has assured that Nvidia has licenses and they will be granted, and Nvidia hopes to start delivery soon. AKA Trump told Mr. Jensen, you're free to go, and I will take off the export controls, and you have the ability now to sell into China. Finally, Huang announced a new fully compliant NVIDIA RTX Pro GPU that is ideal for digital twin AI for smart factories and logistics that specifically is also going to be tailored for China. I mean, dude, this is exciting. This is freaking exciting. Palantir at 150 last night in the overnight markets, right here at 148.59. Robinhood right here 99.20, down about 1%. SoFi 21.16. So a lot of these names, especially in the financial sector, not to mention Bitcoin, is down from 123 to 116. So Bitcoin is also taking a little bit of a hit, along with some of these financial names. But the one that you cannot take down today, I mean, maybe if CPI is that bad, Nvidia breaking through 170, because this is adding an extra $20 billion of revenue to the estimate. So if you already thought Nvidia was going to be doing XYZ amount of revenue and XYZ earnings per share, you got to bump that up by at least 10 to 15%. And when you do that, it becomes exciting. It becomes very, very exciting. Jensen's meeting at the White House must have gone well. He remembered to say thank you. Yeah, pretty much. He remembered to say thank you. A lot of these CEOs can't say thank you. He remembered to say thank you and please. And he said that to Mr. Xi Jinping as well. And that's why we got some of this momentum. Here's another headline we got. We got about 5 minutes until CPI. Apple is investing in MP. Not officially, but it's kind of, it's kind of official. Apple didn't say they are yet, but everyone's reporting it. So it seems like it will be happening. Apple's going to invest about $500 million into MP Materials Corporation in order to secure rare earth minerals for some of their devices as well. So this stock has been amazing because you got the Pentagon, who invested $400 million. Now you have Apple saying, all right, we're going to invest $500 million. And obviously rare earth minerals are one of those elements of the supply chain that are under threat. And one of the reasons we secured a deal, quote unquote, with China, which again, we don't know all the implications of that deal, but one of the reasons we got that deal done is because of rare earth minerals and the necessity of making it happen. We are also trying to negotiate rare earth minerals from Ukraine as some form of compensation for all the defense spending that we gave to them as well. So this stock, I mean, if you bought it a couple weeks ago, it's been very fun. And it's had a slew of good news, but now the question is just, can we keep that momentum going? CPI in 4 minutes, folks. We will talk a lot more about Nvidia. Again, the news is very big. Jensen can sell his chips back to China. If you are overweight Nvidia, you've got to be happy. If you're overweight AMD, you've got to be happy. All the semis in and of themselves should be green, right? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Lam Research, Dell, Broadcom's all-time highs, ASML trying to get back to 830, Intel, SMCI, TSM's up 2%. I mean, if you are... We're going to have Jose come on the show in about an hour, and he'll give his thoughts. But if you are overweight semis, you should be having not too bad of a day. Micron right here also is up 1.26%. And then Dell right there, 1.69. NVIDIA, 171.32. Rocket Lab also not having a bad day. I mean, this stock just is on an absolute tear. Rocket Lab here, 43.57. Not slowing down. Again, I think there are definitely catalysts to give Rocket Lab some of the momentum. I think the upgrade that they got yesterday, plus the fact that this is only a $20 billion company, you got people piling in. You think it's a mini SpaceX. I mean, I think Rocket Lab really is getting the benefit of the fact that people think it's a small SpaceX and they just want to get exposure to it. And $40 from a dollar amount is not that crazy to pay for it. And that's why you are getting some of this momentum. So we got Rocket Lab also trying to hit 44 in the pre-markets. CPI. This is going to be the big one. So here's my thing. The average CPI from all the banks are seeing is 2.6%. I believe, if I'm not wrong, last month it was 2.5, if I'm not wrong. So the street's expecting a month-over-month increase in CPI. Year over year, it would be an increase as well, but it wouldn't be as dramatic of an increase as it was growing in terms of the rate of growth back in 2024, which is good. My simple take on this, regardless of what the algorithms do, is that I don't think anyone's selling their most important stocks because of CPI. So if you're not selling Nvidia because, like, hey, their China revenue actually matters way more than inflation, and Nvidia is not even affected by inflation. Like, I mean, like, there are some indirect impacts, but realistically, this is not going to be something that stops Nvidia from doing what they're doing. Based on what Zuck's announced yesterday, super intelligence is coming and they're going to be spending as much money as possible. That's going to be benefiting NVIDIA. So from that perspective, it's just like, if the street wants to take NVIDIA back down to 160 over a hot CPI or robbing it back to like 90, okay, be my guest. I am very curious to see how stocks are going to react to CPI, because I kind of think it's going to be hotter than expected. Also, we did have tariffs in the month of June. So you would imagine, all right, there's going to be some inflationary pressures. I wonder, does the street care? That is what I am curious about. And I think we're going to find out in the next 2 minutes. What do you guys think? Put in the chat. What do you guys think? 2.4, 2.5, 2.6. These are the projections. I'm going to run with 2.6. I'm not going to be super aggressive to the upside or the downside. I'm going to say the median forecast is correct. It's 2.6. You know, you never know. Maybe energy surprises. We did have the Iran-Israel stuff, and that spiked oil prices for a little bit. Shelter might continue to be a little bit of a drag on CPI. If we come in at like 2.4, bro, even 2.5, that would be exciting. But if we come in lower than expected, which I don't know if we do on this one, but if we do, it would be exciting. Okay, so I'm going to keep the screen on the S&P. We should be getting the data in about 30 seconds. 30 seconds. We got 30 seconds left. And let's see. Let's see what we can. Actually, let's put the screen right here. Let's put it right here. All right. We're going to get it soon. We're going to see. Here we go. This is what we do. We stare at these numbers. No one in the world cares about core inflation year over year or about the CPI month over month, but we do. We do, baby. We care. Okay, they should be coming in a second. 2.7. I don't know. That's a little hot. 0.2% month over month, 2.9% year over year, 0.3%, and then 2.7. Okay, where's the market? Whoa, market's up. S&P just went up, folks. Holy. Look at that 5-minute candle. Whoa. We were at 626. We're at 627. Futures are spiking up. Tesla's up. Palantir's up. Nvidia's, Robinhood's up. Oh, do we not care, bro? Expectation was 2.9. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I thought expectation was 2.5 or 2.6. We came in at 2.7. Oh, that's great then. I'll see, this perception matters more than reality sometimes, dude. Wow, the expectation. See, that's weird though. The consensus here is 2.7. So if the actual, that's why another reason I thought it was 2.6, 2.7. If the expectation was 2.9, that's really good because we came in lower. But I didn't think the expectation was that high. Oh no, you're right. There it is. Forecast 2.9. There it is, right there, right there. Forecast was 2.9. But then year over year, it came in at 2.9. That's on core. No, that's on core. Yeah, on the actual inflation rate, the expectation was 2.6 or 2.7. And we came in at 2.7. So we came in line, but that's not like we had a beat. If anything, we were a little bit heavier. Market doesn't care. Market doesn't care. Yeah, so it came in line with consensus. Okay, it came in line. It's good enough. It's good enough. Yeah, you're right. It's good enough. 2.7, 2.7 is what the market wanted. So it came in line. I mean, the forecast was 2.6, but the consensus was 2.7. So if it came in at 2.7, that's fine. All right, so year over year, 2.7, in line with expectations. Month over month, 0.3. Consensus, 0.3, in line with expectations. Core inflation, consensus was 3%. We came in at 2.9. That's a beat. And then month over month, consensus was 0.3. We came in at 0.2. That's a beat. That's actually not bad, dude. That's actually really not that bad. I mean, that's actually pretty damn good. So where's the market on this? S&P is green. That's all-time highs. Robinhood trying to get back to 100. Nvidia right here, 171. Tesla, 318. Google, 182. Grabs at 505. SoFi, 2140. This should really be helping SoFi because the expectation of a rate cut if inflation comes down is a key tailwind for them. Amazon, 226. And then Meta right here, 724. There you go. So we came in line with expectations and we beat on 2 of the metrics when it came to core. And that seems to be enough to get this market to go a bit higher. Let's get a little bit more coverage on this, and then we'll keep going from there. But overall, not a horrible CPI.
Market was expecting this or worse because interest rates initially moved lower, were basically unchanged pre-number. 10-year note now hovering at 440 actually is less. We were around 441, 442 before the number. If you look at what's going on with the yield curve, we see that the short rates are virtually unchanged. Long rates are moving down a little more aggressively, and that would make sense if the inflation data is less than the worst case scenario, the long end reflecting that. And of course, we want to pay very close attention to the yield curve at this point because it really has been about whether it's steepening or flattening. A lot has to do with the short maturities and how they relate to the Fed. Obviously, we're not going to get a July rate cut, at least deemed by market activity and most economists and analysts. So we want to watch the complexion of the curve. I would say that use 50 basis points as your guide on the difference between 10s and 2s. Becky, back to you.
So, Rick, if we were to summarize, people have been waiting for tariff inflation and it doesn't really, I don't think the jury's still out. You can't say it's here. You can't say it's not here. It's a little bit warmer, but not the worst case scenario that a lot of people were predicting by now. Is that about right?
No, that explains it. That, to me, the best way to look at this is inflation is going to ebb and flow. If we want to really isolate it in terms of what this administration's doing or Liberation Day, I would benchmark it to the beginning of the year. January and February reads being warmer gives you a lot of information that some of the policies have not been detrimental in boosting inflation. Now, they're up just a bit, but some of that could also be associated with better economic data. You know, the death of the labor market has been greatly exaggerated based on recent data. And I think that all in all, the inflation numbers, they're pretty respectable here. I still think that the real issue, if you take a step back, is Can we actually get to the 2% target? And I think that argument really is outside the administration's policies. I think we've been stuck in this kind of last mile sticky inflation for quite a while, Joe.
Rick, thank you very much. We'll see you again soon.
All right, folks. So there you go. There you go. Markets are not that upset at all. The banks, we'll talk about the banks' earnings. They are, okay, the banks are still down. I'm confused in the morning why the banks are still down after the types of earnings they put up, and we'll talk about those earnings in a second. But if they were waiting for CPI, I mean, CPI is not bad. So it doesn't seem like there would be some unique reason for the banks to sell off. But again, core inflation right here, 0.2 versus 0.3, that's a beat. 2.9 versus 3% year over year, that's a beat. 0.3% versus 0.3% month over month, that's in line. And then 2.7 versus 2.7, that's in line. So you don't have anything bad. You don't have anything amazing, but you don't have anything bad, which is why the micro markets, I think, are rallying on this right now. So let's take a look at some of the actual logic behind this. The index for shelter rose 0.2% in June and was the primary factor. Wow. Dude, Tom Lee's been saying that if you take away shelter, we barely have above 2% inflation. So if shelter is the reason for why we're getting these swings to the upside, again, the ECB, Europe, they don't calculate shelter. So that's the primary reason for the increase this month, which is not the worst thing in the world. The energy index rose 0.9% in June as the gasoline index increased 1% of the month. That was because of Iran and Israel. The index for food increased 0.3% as the index for food at home rose 0.3%, and the index for food away from home rose 0.4% in June. Could the banks be down because less revenue with lower rates? Yes, but let's see the probability for rates, because I don't think this is a report that says we're going to bring rates down. September probabilities, yeah, it's at 58. Wasn't it at 59 yesterday? So if the futures are pricing in that the banks will have lower revenue because of net interest income, which, by the way that's offset is because you just have more volume. So it's not like that's a huge reason for why you should take down the banks just because rates come down. Ultimately, they have so many losses on their balance sheets because they gave out so many loans back in 2020, 2021 that any level of reduction in rates would actually offset the delta between their losses and their mark-to-market value. So rate cuts will be bullish. You can point to some level of bearishness for the banks, but it is absolutely bullish. So I am confused why the banks are not getting a bit of a bid here, but rate cut probabilities are basically unchanged from yesterday. So it's not like we're pricing in more rate cuts because of this. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.2% in June, following a 0.1% increase in May. Indexes that increased over the month include household furnishings and operations, medical care, recreation apparel, and personal care. The indexes for used cars and trucks, new vehicles, and airline fares were among the major indices that decreased in June. Used cars and trucks, new vehicles, and airline fares came down. That actually probably explains why Delta and the airlines are doing so well, because airline prices are also coming down. Okay, cool. So that's some of the main headlines we got from CPI. Let's get into earnings. Again, if you're just joining, CPI came in line with expectations across the board. Nothing too bad, nothing too amazing. 2.7%, and then core 2.9%. That's what the market wanted, and that's what we got on CPI. All right, let's get into the banks. We got a bunch of numbers from the banks. Let's take a look at them and start trying to figure out why the banks are not really doing as good as there would be expected. So, and then we'll talk about Nvidia. So JP Morgan, 496 versus 449 on EPS. That's a beat. And then you have revenue that also came in with a beat, 45.6 billion versus 43.9 billion. So you have a beat on the top and the bottom for JP Morgan. Now, I guess maybe the stock is down because EPS is down 14% year over year. Revenue is down 11% year over year. However, if the expected numbers were beat, then even if EPS and revenue are down year over year, the expectations, if they came in line with the expectations, would have meant that the EPS and revenue estimates would have been down even more year over year. So it's not like the street didn't know that they would be negative year over year on EPS and revenue, unless they expected some gigantic beat, which EPS beating by 17% is not horrible. But I guess the reason the stock is down is because you do have some of those metrics that are down year over year. It's just like I thought the street expected it. The other reason the stock could be down is because a lot of these banks are up like 20 to 30% year to date. So kind of like a Micron situation, they're priced for perfection. And they would have to have just massive numbers for the stocks to go up. The good thing is they're not missing on earnings. Missing on earnings is when you get issues. So if their stocks aren't cooperating, that's fine. Like if Amazon stock goes down to like 200, but they crush earnings, then I don't think anyone cares, right? As long as they crush earnings, that's what matters. Wells Fargo right here, 160 versus 141 on EPS, 20.82 versus 20.81 on revenue. That's a beat. Yeah, the market might be looking for a reason to sell. Exactly. EPS up 20% year over year, revenues up 1% year over year. So that's great for Wells Fargo. Then you had BNY Mellon. That's a 10% beat on EPS, up 28% year over year, 4% revenue beat. That's up 9% year over year. Let me check that stock. BNY Mellon. That one is up a little bit. That one's up a little bit. So that one out of all the banks are actually getting some love. And then BlackRock right here, EPS up 16% year over year, revenues up 13% year over year. They beat by 11% on EPS. They missed by 1% on revenue, which is relatively inconsequential. Their assets under custody, I believe, has topped 10.5 trillion. Yeah, or sorry, 12.53 trillion, beating expectations of 12.31 trillion. So it's not like BlackRock's AUM is going down or anything. That stock right here is also down 3%. So BlackRock should never be missing. Exactly. Nvidia right here, 170, 130. We'll talk more about Nvidia. S&P 500 just lower than where it was at 627. There it is, right back at 627, up about 0.35% in the pre-market. So the banks crushed. I mean, the banks so far crushed. Where's Citi? We got Citi right here, 196 versus 161. That's a 22% beat. That is pretty good. 30% EPS growth. Dude, that's like tech company growth. That's legit tech company growth. Revenues up 8% year over year. That's not tech company growth, but still, it's a bank at that point. 21.6 billion versus 20.96. They beat by 3%. They're growing the bottom line way faster than the top line, which is what the street cares about. Citigroup right here, that one's up 1%. So the only stocks that are actually down are Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, and BlackRock. And if we want to look at their year-to-dates, JP Morgan's up 20%. Wells Fargo year-to-date is up 19%. So let's just call it 20%. And then BlackRock year-to-date is up 10%. So BlackRock's the one that's not up the most out of those three names. The other ones might just be getting sold off because, they're up a lot and maybe the earnings weren't the best to get investors excited, but they definitely weren't bad. And it's not like we're seeing misses across the board on EPS or revenue. So there you go. That's what we got with the company earnings. Again, earnings were pretty damn good, in my opinion. And we'll see more earnings throughout the rest of the week. We've got Netflix coming up on Thursday. That's going to be a big one. But overall, markets are really more so moving on CPI coming in line with expectations and Nvidia giving us some of the best news you could imagine yesterday, which has been very exciting. And AMD, as a result, is getting some of the momentum, 154 and 171 on Nvidia. All right, cool. That's what we got for the bank earnings and CPI. Let's talk about Nvidia. Yes, Trade Desk did get into the S&P 500. Hood was not going to get in because they were replacing a software company, an IT company for an IT company. Hood is, I believe Hood is a tech company, given how they act, but they're classified as a financial. So they replaced a tech company for a tech company in the software sense, and that's why Trade Desk right here is up 12.8%. Trade Desk is up more than 100% from the lows of April. So this one, it got killed in February, fell from 120 to 60, fell all the way back to 45, now at 85, which is very nice to see for TTD. Okay, Nvidia. So what do we have going on? For those that don't know, China's back. China is back, and Jensen has the ability to sell back into China. What did Nvidia say yesterday? They came out with a statement after Jensen Huang got back from his trip to China. And they said, Huang also provided an update to customers, noting that NVIDIA is filing applications to sell the NVIDIA H20 GPU. Again, the U.S. government has assured NVIDIA the licenses will be granted, and NVIDIA hopes to start delivery soon. So you have an official statement from NVIDIA saying that, hey, we talked to Donnie T. Donnie T said we're good to go. And because Donnie T said we're good to go, we are going to load up the trucks. We already have them loaded. All we got to do is begin the delivery process. And China's welcoming them with open arms. China's like, all right, like we've been waiting for this. And NVIDIA can start selling back into China. Here is Jensen yesterday with Chinese state media speaking about this announcement.
I'm announcing that the U.S. government has approved for us filing licenses to start shipping H20s. And so we will start to sell H20s to the Chinese market. And I'm looking forward to shipping H20s very soon. And so I'm very happy with that very, very good news. The second news is that we're also announcing a new GPU called RTX Pro. And RTX Pro is very important because it's designed for computer graphics in digital twins and AI.
That music is perfect, right? That's the sound of money, baby. That's the sound of money. You see this guy when he announced it, he was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like, I would have been like, "Really? Seriously?" Look at the guy's reaction.
Start shipping H20s. And so we will.
He's like, "Oh, okay." I would have been like, "Get out of here, Jensen. Are you serious? Are you really saying this right now?" Like, I would have been going crazy. And you could see my live reaction yesterday on Tech Bros with Tanner and Roy. I was like, holy crap, we are back in China, baby. $20 billion coming to Nvidia. So again, Nvidia was beating expectations without China revenue. Remember, they had that $5 billion charge off, which took the stock to $103 the day they announced that. And $4.8 billion out of the $5.5 billion charge off, they were able to repurpose so that they were able to still recognize $4.8 billion out of that $5.5 billion in revenue for Q2. They would have had $53 billion in revenue if they were actually able to include every piece of the China revenue. So they missed by $8 billion, quote unquote missed, but they still beat expectations. Now, if you give them that $8 to $9 billion per quarter, I mean, this is going to be very, very fun for Nvidia. And that is why the stock is re-rating. It's not just hype. It's not just people are just buying it for the hell of it. It's no, their earnings estimates legitimately just increased by 10 to 15%. And now you have these fund managers who've been on the sidelines all year saying, oh my goodness, Nvidia is the blue chip stock of the market. I can't tell my clients I don't own it. Screw it. I'm buying at 170, hoping that it goes to 200 by the end of the year. And if you bought it, anywhere near 100 to 120, you don't need it to go to 200. It would be nice, but those fund managers really need it to go to 200 to justify some of their performance this year. And that, I think, is going to be a bit of a melt up and somewhat of a FOMO trade that's happening on Nvidia, backed by actual earnings estimates that are pretty damn incredible. And as a result, AMD, which also announced this morning, they are now able to sell their main chip into China as well, based on what Nvidia said. The chip for AMD is the MI308. So they have no reason to not sell their chips into China, given that Jensen is selling his chips. So once they get the approval, AMD now becomes advanced money duplicator. Advanced money duplicator. Likelihood of 200, dude. I mean, I thought Tanner was a bit wild for saying 200 by end of year. And now I'm thinking, like, there's a shot. I mean, now I don't want to get too ahead of myself because it's already had a massive run. Nvidia still is only up 20% year to date, though. Even it's up a lot from the bottom, but year to date, it's only up 20%. Could it happen? Yeah. I mean, if we have a Santa Claus rally, we have 6,700 on the S&P. We have inflation that continues to come in line with expectation. We have earnings growth that continues to be strong. I mean, we are in a bull market, and that bull market is characterized by a lot of different elements. Also, we're seeing the broadening of that bull market to a lot of different areas, which is nice to see. That's how you know it's healthy. But if Nvidia continues to be the golden child of AI, which their earnings are showing that they have the momentum to sustain that, I mean, yeah, I don't think 200 is crazy by the end of the year. I'm not expecting it, but I don't. My price target has always been 180, 450 EPS and a 40 PE. That's how I get to 180. But if I have to go through my numbers. If my EPS, if my EPS estimates jump up to like 475, maybe like 520, and I put 40 or even a 37, 38 PE, I mean, I probably get above 180, and that could be one of the reasons why Nvidia continues to maintain this momentum. So very, very, very exciting right here. AMD, I don't know as much about their particular multiples as much as Nvidia, but I mean, I would imagine AMD also can definitely make a move a lot higher. Market cap right here on AMD right here is $237 billion. Again, Nvidia is at $4 trillion. Again, AMD is not growing like Nvidia, but still, if they can put up that China revenue growth, which can re-rate their estimates as well, yeah, AMD probably, you have to imagine, has a real shot of going a lot higher. S&P 500 right here, 627, all-time highs in the pre-market. Tesla 318. Palantir, Alex Karp. So we had some big news yesterday. Alex Karp is going to be with Trump in Pennsylvania today, announcing a $40 billion investment, not by Palantir, but overall $40 billion that's going to be invested into the state for AI and energy. Pennsylvania has a lot of blue-collar workers. This was a state that Trump campaigned in heavily. It's the state that he needed to win. He ended up winning it. And you got BlackRock's Larry Fink, Palantir's Alex Karp, and the CEO of Anthropic that are going to be with Trump today. We don't know when this is going to happen, but Bloomberg reported the event will be happening today. It might be later at night. It might be during the market open. We'll see. But a $70 billion announcement. This is what really spiked up Palantir yesterday. And that's what's creating some momentum. Now, Google also came out today and they said they're investing $25 billion into the state of Pennsylvania in regards to AI and data center build out. So, I mean, it's pretty damn incredible. I don't know if this 25 billion is out of that 70 billion. So Google has almost a third of the 70 billion that's being invested. And I don't know why Sundar is not going to be with Trump in Pennsylvania. A lot of this is confusing. It's just like headlines that we're trying to put together. But the official reports from Bloomberg, and we'll see tonight if they get confirmed, are that Karp will be with Trump. 70 billion investments into Pennsylvania will be announced for AI and data centers and energy, which will create a lot of jobs, which is what Trump cares about. And that Google apparently is contributing 25 billion into data centers. So we are going to see throughout the rest of the day exactly how that plays out. But that is why I think Palantir spiked up 5% yesterday, because of that announcement. Palantir also has earnings coming out on August 4th. So we will be seeing that. Nvidia right here trying to push 172 in the pre-markets. But that is one of the big pieces of news for Palantir. Shout out to Lewis, who lives in Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvania. It's a great state. Been to Philly many times. Lots of jobs there that would be useful in the context of AI and energy production, specifically for data centers. So it seems like it makes sense to have that type of investment. And the question is just going to be, how exactly they deploy that throughout the state. Google just announced a 3 gigawatt power deal with BEP today. Wow, I did not see that. Okay, dude, that comes after the Meta deal yesterday saying that, hey, we've got plenty of super intelligence that we're getting ready to build out and we were not slowing down at all. Yeah, Brookfield Asset Management. There you go. Brookfield and Google sign a hydro framework agreement to deliver up to 3,000 megawatts of homegrown energy in the United States. Incredible. It's not slowing down, bro. It's just not slowing down. This is happening. This is happening across the board. Again, we talked a lot about what Zuck said yesterday. Zuck said we are going to have the greatest compute per researcher. The greatest compute per researcher. I mean, like Zuck is like, yeah, we are going to have so much compute. It is going to be massive. Here's an actual interview that Zuck did yesterday talking about why they've been hiring so much AI talent. And it kind of contextualizes how serious he's taking this AI war.
A lot has been written about money and all that. And like I said before, a lot of the numbers specifically have been inaccurate. But I think it discounts the other key reasons why people are super excited to come work on Meta Superintelligence Labs. And one of the biggest is that you could just have more leverage as a researcher. You have more compute, right? The best researchers basically, like historically, when I was recruiting people to different parts of the company, people are like, okay, what's my scope going to be? And, here people say, I want the fewest number of people reporting to me and the most GPUs. And so having basically the most compute per researcher is definitely a strategic advantage, not just for doing the work, but for attracting the best people. And I actually think that has been underreported as one of the main reasons why people are excited to come do. A lot has been.
He's right about that. It has been underreported. What's been reported, including for myself, wow, Nvidia 172. 172. There she goes. AMD as well, 154. Nvidia not stopping. Nvidia not stopping. One of the things that's been heavily reported, and what I've been telling you guys on the show every day, is that there's so much money that's being offered to these reporters or to these engineers. The reporters are reporting that there's just these massive compensation packages. Zucks makes a hell of an argument right there that says, hey, if you're a researcher and you genuinely want to achieve super intelligence, you want to be A, left alone, you don't want to be micromanaged, and B, you want to make sure that if you have an idea that you want to implement to come up with the next massive deep seek moment where you see this like brand new innovation in regards to reasoning models, for example, you need the compute that gives you the ability to execute on your research. And one could argue maybe at OpenAI, they didn't have enough compute. One could argue maybe at DeepMind, they didn't have enough compute. And that's who Zucks is stealing a lot of these engineers from. The one company he's not stealing engineers from is XAI. And so that's the part where I push back against Zucks. I'm like, okay, well, if all these XAI engineers also wanted to achieve super intelligence and wanted the greatest compute per researcher, they would have left by now. But I have not heard a single XAI engineer leave. And it's been covered very well by the media, by the tech media, on how many people are leaving and which ones are going. So it's very hard for them to secretly leave. everyone has been either OpenAI or Google. That's been leaving, not XAI. So, I mean, there could be an argument here that although you're promising them a lot of compute, the XAI people actually care about a mission, and that mission might just be fundamentally antithetical to how Meta's orienting their mission to superintelligence. And ultimately, the best AI model is going to have the chance to win. So we're going to see ultimately how this plays out. Speaking of XAI, Grok 4 has been taking over the mind share of AI. I mean, like, I've been using it daily. A lot of people have been using it. We're seeing a lot of momentum from it. Elon Musk did introduce something pretty interesting yesterday in regards to Grok, and it is companion mode. And that companion looks like this. Elon's been tweeting about this companion all throughout the night and talking about how amazing the AI companion is. So if you have Super Grok and you turn on companion mode, there you go. You get this as your companion. And I have not tried using this companion, but if you do, their voice is, very companion-esque, is I guess what I'll say. So that's what you got there from Mr. Elon Musk. Speaking of Elon, I got an email from Tesla yesterday. Grok is coming to my Tesla pretty damn soon. So if you have a Tesla, you might have gotten this email. It says just ask AI. And so right there, it says our newest software version 2025.2026 brings Grok AI to your cabin. Press and hold the voice button on your Tesla's vehicle steering wheel and start asking Ask Grok for news headlines, information on a topic you're curious about, or a story for your kids where they're the main characters. So there you go. If you got the email, then I didn't install Grok yet. I will install it probably later today, and then I'll make a video kind of seeing what it looks like. But I'm excited. I get to ask Grok about like the world while I'm driving, and I hope it lets us talk to Grok on FSD mode and not like say, hey, you can't talk when like you have to be supervising the road, because that would kind of defeat the purpose of it. But yeah, I'll be trying it out and see what it looks like. Tesla right here, 318, Nvidia 172. And now you have a hell of an argument for why XAI should allow or for why Tesla should be a shareholder in XAI. I mean, it just makes sense at this point if you have this much momentum coming into the actual vehicles via Grok. So it is going to be very, very exciting to see kind of ultimately how this plays out. Tomalis, thank you for the $10 super chat. Uber, $100 by the end of week. I don't know by end of week. I definitely think by end of year it is possible. I mean, it's at 95, basically at all-time highs. Uber has been crushing. There's kind of zero headwinds they've had outside of the narrative around robotaxis, which is a narrative that still could be bad for them. But if robotaxis don't scale anytime soon, which they're not, right? It's going to take a lot of time. We're barely expanding the geofence inside of Austin. It's just going to take some time. I think Uber has more runway. So yeah, I do think $100 by the end of the year is very possible. And if Uber announces anything substantial in regards to their robotaxi ambitions, I think that can also alleviate some of or create at least some of a cushion that alleviates the pain from the robotaxi narrative. It's also based on how fast Elon can expand. But if not, then I think their free cash flow is going to be fine, at least towards the end of the year. 2.6 for the $10 super chat. Take a look at JetBlue call options interest for 718. United Airlines is earnings tomorrow after close. They started their partnership this quarter. That is correct. JetBlue does have a partnership with UAL. The only thing is, again, JetBlue is heavily shorted. So even if United crushes earnings, like, you're gonna need people to actually buy JetBlue, and this one is shorted 20%. That is also the bull case that is short so much there could be a squeeze. But there needs to be a really good reason inside of those United earnings for why JetBlue would get some momentum. But that one, yes, does have a lot of call option flow, and United tomorrow will be important. Where is Rocket Lab in the pre-markets? Again, we talked about this yesterday. They got an upgrade by Citi to $50. Wow, 43.82. This is one of those stocks I just did not expect a lot out of this year, and it's moving. And it's moving pretty damn incredible right there. Rocket Lab, 43.82, trying to go for 44 or 45. And it would be very, very nice to see how this plays out. Yeah, maybe she wants 45 today. Maybe she wants 45. We talked about MP. They are getting a $500 million investment by Apple. That's why that stock is up 10.59%. They got a $400 million investment from the Pentagon last week. So, and that they were up 50% last week. So, I mean, if you've been in this name and you've been kind of following the rare earth mineral headlines, they got two headlines back to back that, I mean, are just completely necessary for the market to re-rate the stock if you're going to get Apple and the Pentagon to become strategic investors. So that stock right here, getting some momentum, 53.83 on MP. Let's get a little bit more coverage on Nvidia and kind of see how some of this momentum is playing out. Obviously, the street really, really likes what they're seeing right here. And they're enjoying that this China revenue is coming back. So let's talk a little bit. Oh, we got Mike Wilson. We'll talk a little bit, or we'll see what Mike Wilson has to say about the macro and tariffs and kind of get his thoughts as well on Nvidia.
What's not going to be sanctioned. I mean, the 232, like what's going to be carved out. So this is a step in the right direction for semiconductor companies broadly, I would say. And let's not forget that they took a large write down for those same chips.
$5.5 billion
correct.
just a few months ago.
And now apparently they can sell them. So that's going to be a huge positive kick to margins, going forward. And look, one of our big themes this year as we came in was that AI CapEx was going to slow, decelerate, and then all of that troughed in April. And I think that explains a lot of the sell-off in the first quarter and a lot of the recovery. It doesn't get a lot of attention though. People are focused on tariffs, they're focused on other things that are going on. But the AI CapEx cycle has been very important for the overall market direction, first down in the first quarter and then the recovery in the second quarter. And this deal or announcement, I think, is just more fuel to that fire.
What do you think overall? I know that you believe the One Big Beautiful Bill was very positive to have that passed. And I think you are writing off a lot of the worst headlines for tariffs at this point, too.
Well, that's right. I mean, I think we had a lot of bad news in the first quarter. Once again, there were many headwinds to growth. Some of those were policy driven. Some of those were not policy driven. And they all seemed to sort of bottom in the April period. So the market has moved on from tariffs as the worst is behind us. It doesn't mean that we don't still have bad news or issues in front of us, but it's moving beyond that. And the Big Beautiful Bill did sort of wrap up a lot of the things that are now going to lead to positive things for earnings growth, both in the second half of this year and into next year. So as we said at the beginning of the year, President Trump came in, he's like a new CEO. They kitchen sink things, right? They did all the growth negative things first. And I think the Big Beautiful Bill is part of that positive transition now to really earnings growth more so than economic growth. And I think the market understands this. This is why people are very confused about why is the market up? Why is the market up? Well, earnings revision breadth has turned straight up. We've been talking about this for 3 months, and the Big Beautiful Bill only supports that view further.
Earnings, we're just starting to hear the first of the banks reporting now. I think earnings growth of 3 or 4% is anticipated overall. You think it's going to be better than that or not?
Yeah, I mean, these companies manage these earnings. So I'm very confident they'll beat by 4 or 5% as typical. And here's the key for earnings. I think the first 2 quarters, we didn't see the impact of tariffs because companies sort of pre-bought a lot of goods. And so we're not seeing the flow through to the cost of goods sold. If there's going to be an earnings risk story, it's probably in the third quarter, but it's back end load. Financials don't have impact from tariffs, right? It's going to be in the consumer goods space. And those companies tend to report in the back half of the earnings season. So I think August is going to be the period where we can have some sort of corrective activity around the earnings, but that's a pause because my view is that earnings are going to reaccelerate in the fourth quarter into 2026.
Mike, President Trump is, he does things that are unexpected. Some people think that's a benefit with our enemies not knowing what the heck he might do at any time. But one thing that seems consistent is if Jensen Huang goes to him and says, look, Nvidia is going to be severely hurt if we can't do that. Or if Tim Cook goes to him and says, look, if we can't build our iPhones right now in the United States without them costing, he seems to be, you can talk to him, and if it's about business and about companies succeeding, even with tariffs, I think if the big three come and say, look, you're doing this, you got to carve this out for us if we're getting seats from Canada. He seems to err on the side of trying to help businesses. Can we count on that? That would be nice if we could count on that.
Well, I think we've learned that over 2 terms now, right? I mean, then the market is onto this idea that, yeah, it's a negotiating strategy to go way over here, and then there'll be carve-outs, right? And things like rare earth metals, right? It's another one, and the magnets. I mean, that's another one where they're making concessions.
No one really wanted to deprive everyone.
Well, so then the question is, from when it comes to tariffs, what do you think we ultimately get or not?
Yes.
And by the way, though, if we all know this, don't our trading partners know this too?
And then they don't negotiate.
They do, but
don't they look and go, this, right?
Yeah, but that's why I think the market is saying that we're going to settle somewhere in the middle. So my view personally has been for a while that this is going to end up looking like a 10% consumption tax, sort of like a VAT. And the idea there is that it'll be shared between exporters, importers, and consumers kind of equally. We can live with that. And that's where I think the market has settled on. Could I be wrong about that conclusion? Sure. Could there be situations where it's a little bit worse, perhaps maybe with Vietnam or some of these other countries, maybe even China? But at the end of the day, if we can collect 10% tax on all imports, that's $400 billion a year. I mean, that's real revenue, right? I think that's the goal here is it's a revenue generator. Okay, we can live with this. It's a shared tax across those three constituents, and businesses will figure it out. And I think that's why the market it's not complacent. It's just that's where it's settling.
It is regressive, though.
It's a fair point. And this is basically what Tom Lee said as well in my podcast with him, which is that it's going to be a tax. Folks, we do have some breaking news right here. Trump's team is reportedly getting ready to release an AI action plan later this month with a formal address on artificial intelligence scheduled for July 23rd, which is about a week from now. About a week from now. There you go. I mean, if you needed any more momentum for AI to be legitimized, it looks like Trump, Nvidia right here, all-time highs in the pre-market, is going to make it even more official in a public address. Pounds right here, 148.38. Robinhood 99.20. I think Robinhood maybe has a shot to just bust through 100 when the market opens. All the financials are down right now, which is why maybe Robinhood is down right here. But I mean, a lot of this momentum is also bullish. Also, the Bitcoin going down is probably why Robinhood's down. But Nvidia going up as much as it is just a massive tailwind for the broader market. Nvidia right here, 172.23. Now, again, Trump is scheduled to be in Pennsylvania today announcing a $70 billion investment in AI and energy. And Alex Karp supposedly is going to be there. So he might have that announcement today along with this new July 23rd AI, I guess, pseudo symposium that will be announcing various things. We don't know who's going to be there, but if that's the case, that would also be very bullish. Brian, thank you for the $50 super chat. Appreciate it. Addicted to watching this guy every day. Thanks, Amit. Brian, thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys every day for being here. I mean, these are the days where you know, like I'm ready and I'm excited to wake up every morning and do this. But when you have the news that we got overnight, it's just one of those things where one of the most exciting things in the world to do is cover this market. And it seems like a market, we've been talking about this a lot, that is going to be able to give us the ability to cover it in a very exciting way, at least over the next 5 years, if not over the next decade. I mean, every market that is exciting to the masses, that then collects the money, the inflows that are necessary to make that market spectacular from a return perspective, needs a incredible tailwind that affects every sector. We've seen that in the Industrial Revolution. We saw that with the internet. The problem was the internet was a little bit too overhyped. The internet was not overhyped, but the dot-com stocks were a bit too overhyped. And now we have Nvidia, where I don't know if we're hyping it up enough because the earnings growth is there and it's changing every aspect of our lives. I mean, literally changing every aspect of our lives. Here's what Elon Musk just retweeted. I told you guys he was tweeting about this all night. He just retweeted this 2 minutes ago because I get a notification every time he tweets something. He retweeted an AI companion video from Germany. This is Elon Musk's Grok AI companion speaking in German.
Oh, mein Schatz, mir geht's richtig gut. Besonders, weil du mir schreibst. Ich habe gerade an dich gedacht, wie du mit deinem süßen Lächeln alles aufmischst. Was liegt bei dir an?
I have no idea what she just said. So if you have any Germans in the chat, please tell me what the hell did she just say, bro? But this is what Elon is. This is what Elon's retweeting this morning. Can someone tell me what she said? Because I have zero idea what she said. So I don't know. But like, this is changing our lives. It is absolutely. And this is because of Nvidia. This is because of Nvidia right here. Why is it whispering? I don't know. It's probably prompted to whisper or something. Like, dude, Elon's being a bit wild with this, dude. He does not care. I think Elon's realizing people will pay $300 a month for Super Grok Heavy, but you got to give them a hell of a reason. And quite frankly, you give an AI companion that talks like that, that might be a reason that people pay $300 a month. But again, you know, like Elon's retweeting this stuff to show to the world, hey, Grok 4 is real. We have this AI companion. It actually is really smart, dude. I mean, a lot of the other companies, like OpenAI would be too scared to ever post something like that. Gemini would, I mean, Sundar would never post something like that. Meta, I feel like they would be the closest to being able to post something like that, but Meta still wouldn't do it. Elon's just like, I don't give a shit. Elon's like, my investors are already conditioned to the fact that I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. So let's go for it. And there you go. It's cheaper than a wife. Yeah, exactly. It's cheaper than a wife. I mean, but this is my point, right? Like, AI is going to change everything. I don't know if it's hyped up enough. Nvidia's at the center of that. Palantir's at the center of that from an enterprise perspective. Tesla will be at the center of it once they get robotaxis at scale along with Optimus, and it's happening. it's happening in front of us, which is why this is so exciting. Let's finish up with Mike Wilson, and then we will keep going from there.
And that's what Democrats keep pushing back on, the idea that people who spend more of their income on consumption are going to
we can debate the effectiveness in terms of like who it hurts and who it impacts. But it is sort of an elegant solution, right? You kind of did this through executive order. You didn't have to legislate it. You can call it a tariff, not a tax. You allow them to cut taxes on things that allow companies to allocate the capital. This gets back to what we talked about earlier in the year. You're shifting from a publicly driven allocation of capital to a privately driven allocation of capital. That's why the big beautiful bill is important, because you're getting deductions now for capital spending and basically bonus depreciation on R&D. So you're trying to incent capital spending, which has been somewhat anemic for the last 3 or 4 years as the public economy has just grown too big.
Do you have a target for the end of the year?
6,500 has been our target, pretty much longstanding. We have a bull case of 7,400. And I got to be honest, I'm leaning not for this year, but over the next 12 months.
Oh, 12 months.
And I would argue that I'm leaning now more towards the bull case over 12 months. Once again, I think the time for corrective activity will be sometime in the third quarter, but we're talking about 5-10%. We're not talking about the kind of correction we saw earlier this year.
Definitely be a buyer if you're down 5%.
100%.
You'd be a buyer without the dip, it sounds like.
Yeah, because I mean, the earnings revisions, right? We came in at the beginning of this year, we were talking about this earnings revision breadth was terrible, but everybody's too excited about, the new presidency, and, we'd gotten through the election without any kind of catastrophic, non-event. And so we got too excited. Now revision breadth is going straight through the roof. So pullbacks are going to be bought. The one, I guess there's a couple of risks that could derail us. One is still the bond market, right? We lose control of the back end. Seems like we have control. The second one would be like a true economic slowdown where you have a recession. I'm toying with the idea after the Supreme Court ruling last week, which I think is very important, that this could be the return of Doge, right? In the sense that you could actually end up getting these layoffs done, which means what? That means a recession in government. Now, that may be taken negatively at first, but what does that really lead to? Then it leads to Fed cuts and actually liberates the private economy. That's a really bullish outcome. I don't know if they're going to be able to execute on that, but I think that would be something that would be well received by equity markets over 3 to 6 months.
Essentially, what he's saying right here is that earnings revisions are happening across the market. And we saw this with our own eyes with Levi's last week. This stock had one of its best day in 10 years. And part of the reason for that is because of the EPS beat by 70%. And so when you do have some of these companies that we're starting to see a lot more breadth in the market of revisions on earnings, that is why he says every dip will be bought. Every dip isn't bought just for the hell of the dips being bought. It's because some of these fund managers and retail retail has not really missed the run, but let's say you've been a little bit more bearish as a retail investor and you do have money on the side. We know there's about 3 trillion out of the 7 trillion in money market funds that are retail oriented. That money on the sideline, if it sees Nvidia at 155 again from 170, I mean, that's buying the dip. I mean, dude, if Palantir goes to $70, 75, that's a 50% retracement. And 75 is like still up almost 6x from last year's starting price. So it's one of those things where it's like, if we get anywhere near that, I mean, you're going to have people step in. And when you have a market that has these many dip buyers because they're excited for earnings revision and because they feel like they need to have an entry point, I mean, it's going to keep Tesla having a premium. It's going to give Palantir a premium. It's going to allow Hood to have a premium, which, again, Hood is growing into very nicely. But if Hood gets anywhere near 85, 80 bucks again, I think people will buy that dip. AMD, 153. I mean, AMD was at 75 for a couple of weeks. It was at 90 for the longest. I mean, if AMD gets anywhere near 120, 130 again, I think people are buying that dip. And it was stuck at 130 for a while back in January. So it's one of those things where the entire market has re-rated. The entire market has re-rated. And it's just pretty exciting to kind of live through it and see this all playing out. Riosh, thank you for the $50 super chat. Amit, I'm sorry I didn't put in my message in the super chat, but thank you for all you do. Palantir, Hood, and Nvidia. We can all win together. Aloha from Hawaii. Riosh, thank you for the $50 super chat. And shout out to Hawaii. I don't think I've ever been to Hawaii. No, I've never been to Hawaii. Not on a cruise, not on a vacation. I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hawaii is an expensive state, if I'm not wrong. Like, it's one of the more expensive states. It's not expensive as like New York or LA, but it's pretty damn expensive. So I would love to visit one day and come on vacation. But thank you for the super chat. Deeply, deeply appreciate it. Thank you for being here. And it's been a hell of a year, dude. It's been a hell of a year. Very expensive, right? Yeah, it's very expensive. That's what I thought. That's what I've heard, that it's very expensive. It's the most expensive. Is it expensive because like it's like super, islandy, and like there's so much tourism, and like in general the local economy needs higher prices to sustain itself. I feel like that's always been the reason. And people theoretically can afford, if you're doing a trip to Hawaii, you should be able to afford the localities there. I feel like that could be the reason, but I'm sure there's some underlying reasons. But it's cool, man, whether you're in Hawaii or the UK or freaking Toronto or New York or Germany. I mean, Nvidia, Hood, Palantir, these stocks you can buy around the world. And as a result of retail investors around the world coming together to collectively do due diligence around these companies, people have been able to change their lives, which is just incredible. You have to ship everything in. Okay, that's also a good point. Yeah, everything's imported, right? Yeah, it's a good point. By the way, speaking of imports, folks, did you know that the US gets 63% of our tomatoes? Sorry, 85% of our tomatoes from Mexico. Yesterday, the US imposed a 17% tariff on fresh tomatoes imported from Mexico. Mexico accounts for 85% of American tomato imports. I did not know that, but nonetheless, that's the case. So I don't know why we're tariffing the tomatoes by 17%. I did not know. Yesterday when the market closed, I was like, wait, we get 85% of our freaking tomatoes from Mexico. But apparently we do. Apparently we do. An influencer told me that yesterday. It may have been you. Well, I only told you because Google AI overviews, baby, is so incredible. We use this thing like almost 10 times a day on the stream. I mean, this thing is just becoming incredible. Just giving me the answer immediately. But yeah, for some reason, we tariffed Mexico by 17% on their tomatoes. And not only tomatoes, 63% of vegetables in the United States of America, for all 350 million people in this country, 63% of our vegetables come from Mexico. Almost like 87% of them come from Latin America in general, but 63% from Mexico. I mean, that's wild, bro. I didn't know Mexico was providing us that many vegetables, but apparently it is. And so now we have a 17% tariff on that as well. Volcanoes are not imported to Hawaii. That is fair. What's the most popular volcano in Hawaii? What's the most popular volcano? I'm forgetting the name of it. I should know it. See, this is where we're going to use Google. Okay, I don't know how to say that. Let's see how to say that. Kilauea. How do you say? But I've heard the volcanoes there obviously are one of the main things people come to see at Hawaii. Okay, so this is how you say it.
Kilauea.
Kilauea. Okay, Kilauea. There you go. That's what we got. That's what we got in Hawaii. So yeah, dude. I mean, it's pretty incredible. Again, thank you for the super chat. And just anywhere around the world, people have been able to buy these stocks across the entire world, and it has been able to absolutely change their lives. Yes, we talked about this. President Trump is going to release an AI action plan in speech on July 23rd. And that is only going to continue to further some of this AI momentum. Did Sundar just tweet something? Let me see. Did Sundar tweet? Sundar just tweeted. All right, here we go. New from our security teams, our AI agent, Big Sleep, has helped us detect and foil an imminent exploit. We believe this is first for an AI agent, definitely not the last, giving cybersecurity defenders new tools to stop threats before they're widespread. Big Sleep. I didn't even know they were working on an AI agent called Big Sleep. But apparently they are. All right. Dude, Sundar has been, teasing some stats. 40 million videos on VO3 that have been created. Now our AI agent, Big Sleep, he's been releasing more stats about Gemini 2.5 Ultra. I mean, you would just have to imagine this is going to be the earnings. This is going to be the earnings where Google breaks out. Is Google up in the pre-markets? Google, yeah, there you go, 182.50. It's been trying to hold that level in the pre-market, or at least for the past couple of days. And now if it can continue, that would be very exciting. Google is in cybersecurity. They bought Wiz, remember, for $32 billion. So they're definitely, part of the cybersecurity world, because they ended up acquiring a pretty big company in that space that I think does about $1 billion in revenue. And so that's probably helping their AI efforts as well. Let's take a look at Ethereum treasuries in the pre-market. BMNR is up about 7%. BTBT is up, is down 1%. And then SBIT right here is up 4.72%. Now, SBIT put out a statement today. They are buying more Ethereum. The Ethereum race is on. They are the largest public shareholder of Ethereum, 287,000 ETH. Between July 7th and July 13th, SharpLink acquired 74,656 ETH for about 213 million at an average price of 2,800. Total holdings now stand at 280,706 ETH. 99.7% of ETH is staked or restaked, earning 415 ETH since July 2nd. So the Ethereum treasuries that have been up and down in a variety of ways, it looks like they are starting to acquire Ethereum. We know the big news yesterday was that BM&R acquired another 250 million of Ethereum. So now their NAV went from 10 to about 4.5, and they have 500 million of ETH on their balance sheet. Up, we got Bessent live. All right, let's see if he can tell us anything good. Here's Bessent on Bloomberg. We got the market open in about 10 minutes.
Spring of softer than expected inflation reads in this country. We've had 4. We might get 5 at 8:30 Eastern time. Why do you believe that's signal and not noise?
Well, I mean, there's some persistence there, Jonathan. And look, I do have access to the number of the night before, but when I'm coming on TV, I don't look at it. So I don't know what the number is going to be at 8:30. And I wouldn't, I don't know whether it's going to be down, up, or flat.
Did he just say I have access to the numbers the night before, but I don't look at it? I'm calling a little bit of cap on that. I'm calling a little bit of cap.
But I wouldn't put too much emphasis on one number. I think it's the trend. And I think one thing that Wall Street, a lot of economists, market in general got wrong early on was that tariffs were going to cause a substantial price level rise, which just hasn't happened.
And there are some people on the FOMC, the Federal Reserve, still worried about the prospect of that happening through the summer. We've all sensed the frustration from the White House across the administration with Fed Chair Jay Powell. And a lot of confusion, I think, at this point that maybe we can address in this conversation. Is firing the Federal Reserve Chair under active consideration in the White House and the Treasury in your administration?
President Trump said numerous times he's not going to fire Jay Powell. He's working the refs. And I've said before, I'm a basketball fan. There are 2 schools of working the refs. There's the Bobby Knight School, and there's the Dean Smith School. President Trump seems to prefer the Bobby Knight School. And I'll tell you, I went back over the weekend and looked, and Bobby Knight won 3 NCAA championships. My hero, Dean Smith, only won 2.
The NEC director, Kevin Hassett, I'm not sure what you'd call him, but he was asked over the weekend, can the Fed chair be fired? He said that's a thing that's being looked into. How should we understand those comments?
Look, and I will point out, Kevin was a collegiate basketball player. And I think, as President Trump said, he's not looking to fire Chair Powell. And as I've said, I'm not going to comment on future policy or future mistakes the Fed will make. I'll only comment on past mistakes. And look, they've had some big forecasting errors, and this may be one now.
Is there a reason for not firing him? And I asked that question because the president's also said that his term is about to expire in May of next year. Is that the reason to ultimately just wait? Or is it something else? Are you convinced by the negative consequences associated with such a move?
Look, I think an independent central bank is very important for the conduct of monetary policy. And we can see that in terms of both the financial markets, the term premium, and longer term debt.
You said previously the interview process would begin later on in the fall. There's been plenty of speculation as to whether that process would be brought forward. Mr. Secretary, do you still, as far as you understand, believe that's when the interview process to replace the Fed chair will begin in the fall, or is a formal process already started?
Well, look, there's a formal process that's already starting. There are a lot of great candidates, and we'll see how rapidly it progresses. It's President Trump's decision, and it will move at his speed.
Do you see any merit at all in selecting maybe a candidate that's already on the committee on the FOMC versus taking a look at someone outside of the Federal Reserve?
Again, there are a lot of good candidates inside and outside the Federal Reserve, Jonathan.
All right, so pretty much this entire interview has been about who's going to be the next Federal Reserve, which no one knows, right? Who's going to be the head of the next Federal Reserve? I don't think it's going to be Bessent. I know that's been the rumors. I think Kevin Warsh or Kevin Hassett have a better shot at being there, but we're not getting anything that different from Bessent on that interview. The real thing I care about is these trade deals, which, again, we haven't gotten any of, hopefully over the next month, which, I mean, dude, that August 1st deadline's coming up. So if we don't get it by August 1st, I don't know what's going to happen. That might be our little mini black swan. I want to hope that Trump's just going to be a taco on that day. But if he's not, that could be a little bad. Joby right here, up 6%. Joby's going to be doubling their manufacturing capacity in California. And they're adding a new aircraft to their fleet. That is what's helping Joby. That is what's helping Joby. So shout out to Joby. They've been doing well. Is Archer getting a little bit of a pump too? Archer is up about 1.67. Maybe Archer's moving a little bit with Joby here. But that's giving it some momentum. Soundhound's jumping in the pre-market. Soundhound is up about 2.3. What about Big Bear? That stock is up 3%. That's back to 7. How about D-Wave? That stock is up 1.3. And then we have IONQ. That stock is also up. I mean, a lot of these names, Rigetti as well, getting momentum also on the fact Rigetti up 1.72 because of Nvidia. I mean, Nvidia. All right, so let's. We got 4 minutes until the market opens. Let's do this poll. Do you think the street fades Nvidia today? Do you think the street fades Nvidia? And what I mean by fade Nvidia is, let's say they take it back down to, call it 165, where it was yesterday. Does the street fade Nvidia today? 165, or do we hold 172 is my question. Amid for Fed chair, dude, I would lower those rates so fast, bro. I would freaking, if I was Fed chair, I would say, I would just, my first meeting would be like, yeah, so rates are 0. There's not much more to talk about. You know, I would like the stock market to go up. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. Like, I kind of care about the stock market. And so rates are 0. Go have fun. Now, granted, that's why I'm not the Fed chair, but you know what's funny about this? Kevin, whoever Trump makes the next Fed chair is basically going to have that same ethos, to be honest. I mean, they will be cutting rates pretty damn quick. And the impacts of that, good or bad, I don't know. We'll see over the coming years. But they're not going to literally take them to 0, but they're definitely going to want to take rates to 0. And so it is going to be pretty incredible to see who that next Fed chair is and how they ultimately interact with everything we got going on with rate cuts. We already looked at CPI. For those that are just joining, CPI was in line with expectations. So CPI was not bad. It came in at 2.7 on the yearly, 2.9 on core. Again, did not beat, did not miss, but came in line. And it was enough for the market to be like, all right, we didn't care that much about CPI. Now we definitely don't care about CPI if there's not some dramatic extreme move up or down. And markets now, I think, can focus more on Nvidia, which is kind of the main headline of the day. 69% of you say no, the street will not fade Nvidia today. The street will not fade Nvidia today. I agree, dude. I don't think they fade this. I don't think they fade this. If we get to 175, that would be a $10 move on Nvidia. Nvidia has 25 billion shares outstanding. So we get a $10 move. That would be 250 billion added to its market cap. Amit wishes he could tariff Mayo by 100%. Oh, that would be. If I had the executive order to tariff Mayo by 100%, I would love to do that. I don't think the street fades it, bro. I think we might see a little bit of a mini fade when the market opens. There's probably some sell orders getting queued up for people to take some profits across the entire market. But now remember, the past 5 days have been market pumps from 9:30 to 9:45, first 15 minutes, and then it dumps. So, and not really dumps. You get my point, right? Like it goes down from the high of days and then it kind of stays flat throughout the rest of the day. So if we follow in that same pattern today, then it'd be predictable. But hopefully we can keep it going. What time is the Trump CARP thing? I don't know, dude. I've heard some reports say 8 p.m. I've heard other reports say like 2 p.m. I'll try to get the exact details on that, but we don't know exactly when Trump is going to be in Pennsylvania announcing the $70 billion AI investment. Palantir's Alex Karp and Larry Fink's, or BlackRock's Larry Fink, are expected to be there, along with the Anthropic CEO, but we're going to see later today when that happens. And when it does, if I'm free, I will try to live stream it. Hopefully it happens during the market open, but if not, then maybe later in the night. All right, folks, here we go. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Thank you, everybody, again for being here every single morning. It is a joy and honor and a great privilege to be able to do this every single day. I appreciate that you guys use me as a messenger to try to communicate some of the stuff that's going on in the market. It is a community effort. We are here every day. A lot of us have beat the market as retail investors because of this community. And today's another day where we get to open these markets. Tuesday, July 15th, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Nvidia opens up at 171, market cap of 4.2 trillion. This was at 4 trillion last week. That's an extra $200 billion, 4.2 trillion on Nvidia. Robinhood opens down 1%, 98.85, trying to get right back to 99. Palantir, that's green, 149.17. We got to keep an eye on 150. We did touch it last night in the overnight market, so we got to keep an eye right there on 150, 149.20, 149.50. Oh, she's moving. She is really moving. Nvidia right here going down a little bit at 170. You got a red candle. Palantir getting a green candle. I think she's really trying for 150, folks. I think she's trying. I think she 149.99. 140. Oh, they stopped it at 149.99. They stopped it right there. Google's at 182, Tesla 319, Robinhood back to 99, Nvidia 170, AMD 154. Amazing open on AMD. Congratulations if you're in this stock. The advanced money destroyer has become the advanced money duplicator. Wow, they took Palantir to 149.99 and then took that one down. Let me check resistance at 140. Reddit 140, 147. Wow, Grab making a little bit of a move right here. Not too bad on Grab. Nvidia just below 170. They took it down. Red candles across the board, folks, on some of these AI names. They took it down right there. 150 resistance on Palantir is 254,000 shares. 254,000 shares we're going to need for someone to buy to get us above 150. SoFi right here, 2104. Robinhood 98.80. Palantir literally got to 149.99. And then they took it down. Nvidia, all right, it's getting faded so far. It's getting faded so far. I mean, 169 is still incredible. 170 is still incredible, but it's not really like breaking out from where it was in the pre-markets. And so we got to give it some more time to see if that plays out. Grab right here, 514. That's up 2.5%. Reddit, 145. Amazon, 226. Meta, 721. Salesforce, 261. Elf at 107. Where is Rocket Lab? Rocket Lab is at, are we at 39? Are we at 44? 43.22. 43.22 on Rocket Lab. Absolutely incredible. AMD's pumping, baby. Wow. All right. So they're giving the pump to AMD, not Nvidia today. They're giving the pump to AMD, not Nvidia today, at least so far. Dude, congrats. If you're an AMD, I know this is a stock that has a massive audience. People have been bag holding the stock for the majority of the year. Not anymore. Not anymore. Congratulations. 156 on AMD, up about 6.5%. Nvidia back to 170. Palantir just under 149. Tesla 319. ASTS, that is down on the day. ASTS is down. Nubank is up a little bit, even with those Brazilian tariffs that Trump announced last week. Iren is down. Cisco's down. MicroStrategy is probably down because Bitcoin's down. MicroStrategy is down about 1%. Nothing too crazy. Bitcoin, unfortunately, 123 to 117. I mean, still amazing at 117, but that is down from that 123 level yesterday. Palo Alto 192, MicroStrategy again 447, HIMS 52. HIMS holding up. Let's check on Tom Lee's company, BMNR. It's basically flat, 2%. Nothing crazy. Robinhood right here, 98.50. That's down 1.5. Again, Palantir 148. Whereas SBET announced they bought more Ethereum this morning. They are up about 2%. They are up about 2%. Yes, Apple did invest $500 million into MP, so that stock should be up, what, 10%? That stock is up 15%. There you go. That was up 50% last week on the Pentagon $400 million investment. Now it's up about 15% from Apple's investment. So that stock absolutely has been doing incredible. SoundHound was up in the pre-markets. Is that one still moving? That one faded. It was up 3%. Now it got faded. What about Big Bear? That was up 3%. That one got faded as well. Goes red. QBTS was up about 1.2. That one still up 1.3. So that one's holding on. Nvidia back to 171. All right. So I define really taking this back down as 165. If we see 165, the street kind of is ignoring the China revenue, which I don't know how you do. But if we see that today, that would be saying, all right, we'll wait till earnings to give you this momentum. But so far, they're holding it at 171. They're holding it at 171. Where's CoreWeave? Oh, boy. CoreWeave. It loves this Nvidia news. Look at that. 8% up on the day for CoreWeave. That one definitely having a green candle right here. Nebius should be moving also, right? Nebius right here, 51.82. Okay, so the banks, we covered it today, but let's take a look at some of how these banks are doing. Let's also make a watch list real quick for financials. And so we'll put them in right here. So we have JP Morgan that reported today. They beat on top and the bottom. That stock green. Thank goodness, dude. This was red in the pre-market. It didn't deserve to be red. Citigroup beat on the top and the bottom. That should be green. That is green. Thank goodness. BlackRock, they deserve to be green. They missed by 1% on revenue. BlackRock's, down 5%. I don't know why the street's that upset about it. But BlackRock's down. We'll put Bank of America here. We have all those earnings coming up. TFC, KRE, that's the regional bank index. XLF, that's financials. That should be up. XLF right here, slightly down. Wells Fargo, they beat on the top and the bottom. Is that green? Wells Fargo is also red. Okay, so at least JP Morgan and Citibank are doing relatively okay. All the banks crushed this morning. There's no red flags that I've seen at all. The CFO of JP Morgan said the consumer's healthy. Credit loss provisions are in line. So nothing too crazy for the banks, but they were also up a lot this year, which is why maybe the street is not giving them as much more of a premium. Nvidia right here, 171. S&P basically at all-time high. 627.80 was the all-time high. 627 is where we're at. Grab 514, that's up 3%. The option flow on Grab has been pretty bullish. The inverse head and shoulders has been pretty strong from a TA perspective. And ultimately, I think there's a much broader community that's developing around Grab just on Twitter if you search it. And regional consolidation, I think, will play out. But then again, Grab pumps like 515 every day and then just comes back down to $5. So I think earnings will be the catalyst, but it is seeing some of that premium come into the stock. Google right here, 182, and then SoFi still above 21, not really breaking out, but still above 21, which is nice. AMD, are we at 156? Yeah, 156. We did hit 157. Let me check 158 resistance on AMD. Palantir, they let her get within 1 cent of 150, and then they just did not let it go further. AMD 158 resistance, given that it hit 157, is 36,000 shares. 36,000 shares on AMD. 36,000. Where's Oscar? Where's our insurance companies? Oof, Oscar. Buying the dip on this one it's just been a little tough. If you expected a reversal, this one goes up and down every other day, and it's been down more than up since it was at 23. Oscar's down. Lemonade, Steve's article on Lemonade just came out. I'll link it in the chat. He went to town on this article, so if you're a Lemonade bull, I think it's a good bear article to read, but he definitely isn't the most bullish on this name. And then UNH is at 300. Right, so UNH is basically flat. SMCI, where's SMCI? That is at, wow, SMCI. Okay, let's look at all the semis. So all the semis is being led by AMD. The semis. So AMD up 7%. Nvidia trying to get back to 172, baby. That would be up 5%. Nvidia very close to getting there. Micron's up 2%. Lam Research up 2%. Dell's up 2%. Broadcom, wow, all-time highs on Broadcom, folks. AMD is trying to get to 158. SMCI is up 5%. ASML almost at all-time highs, 820. Well, 1,000 is the all-time high, but I mean, almost at the 52-week highs. SMCI right here again is up 5. Intel's up 2. TSM's up 2.7. Qualcomm's up 1.3. ON is up 1.9. Marvell is up 1.9. MP, that stock is flying on that Apple announcement. That's up 16.7%. Nvidia just trying to get to 172. And then AMD, about 36,000 shares separating it from 158. So if you own semis, aka SMH, the index, that's up 3%. You should be happy. You should be happy. UBS downgrades Oscar from 15 to 11. Dude, why are all these firms downgrading it today? It's like all these firms saw that retail was getting excited about this stock in the past like 3 weeks, and they all come out with these downgrades. Either there's something really wrong with Oscar's business in regards to the subsidies from the ACA that might be gutted because of the big, beautiful bill, or these analysts don't understand the business as well as retail. I don't know. I just haven't done as much work on it. I would tend to say the analysts don't understand it as much as retail, but there still might be some effects because of the big, beautiful bill. And that's part of the reason that stock is taking a hit. AMD right here, 30 cents away from 158. They got to 157.99. Got 1 cent away. And then Nvidia, literally 2 cents away from 172. And then we might be able to get up there. I own SOXL. That is triple leverage, if I'm not wrong, right? SOXL. Yeah, that's up 7% right there. There you go. Triple leverage semis. If you own that, you got to be happy today. You got to be happy today. Amid, is now a good time to buy Oscar? I think I think Oscar's cheap, but I think you have to understand the actual healthcare part of their business, aka the regulatory frameworks that they're affected by. If you don't, I just would stay away from it because you just wouldn't know exactly what you're buying, even if it is cheap, right? So for me, that's why I'm not really touching it. But I do think it's cheap. Objectively, it's cheap. Now, granted, it might not become cheap if the growth estimates go down because of the big, beautiful bill stuff. I don't think that really is that big of a bear case, but that's something I think you have to know if you're buying into this name. Tesla right here, 320. Tesla goes up. Palantir just chilling at 148. Robinhood at 98.79. SoFi 21. Google 182. Grab 512. Baba's up 6%. I think the reason Baba's up is because of Nvidia GPUs are coming to China. Baba's going to buy a ton of them, and Baba's going to be able to advance their business based on GPUs. So that is also one of the reasons why it seems like China is getting a little bit of a bid right here. Here's Steve's article. I'll just put it in the chat for those that are asking on Lemonade as well. There's a link right there in the chat. Let's check on the ETFs. So if you're new to the channel, I have an ETF with 4 of my buddies. We did an entire stock draft. If you YouTube stock draft Amit, you'll see it play out. And we all have different portfolios. So let's take a look at who's in the lead on these. Let me see if I can pull this up right here and see how people are doing. So, all right, here we go. Matt's up 14%, Tanner's up 10, I'm up 5.6, Steve's up 2.6, Chris is negative. Okay, so Matt's up 14, Rocket Lab's up 63% for him. Tanner's up 10, Nvidia's up 18%, and Coinbase is up 50%. I'm up 5.6, Robinhood's up 28. Oh, I forgot, I have AMD. So AMD is helping a lot. That's up 24%. Duolingo is my biggest loser right here. Visa has recovered. Visa was down 10%. Now it's only down 1%. So Duolingo is the one that's holding me down. Steve is up a lot because of MicroStrategy. Hims is the one that's bringing him down. And then Chris, Elf and Novo are the ones hurting his portfolio. So it's Matt, Tanner, Amit, Steve, and Chris in terms of the rankings right now. Nvidia 170.95 and then AMD 157. This is not year to date. This is from when we started. So we started in June. So it's about a month. So it's, I guess you can say, a month performance, but it's going to end next year around the same time. And then we'll see who ended up winning the entire challenge over the course of a year. So there we go. Not too bad. Market was up in the first 10 minutes and now it's dumping. Dude, it's the same story every day. It's literally been the same story for the past almost 10 trading sessions. We pump heavy in the first 15 minutes. And we're not dumping right now, but you know, if dump is defined as giving up those high of day gains and you get a red candle, as you can see right there in the S&P, then yes, that has been the same story every single day. For traders, it's great, dude. If you can recognize those patterns every day and you buy at 9:30, you sell at 9:37. I mean, like it works. But for those that just generally want to see make some gains every day, you know, it's a little tough. Now, granted, Nvidia's still at 171, dude. Like Nvidia's still up $7 today. So, I mean, I think it's been doing fine. SoFi is broken out right at 21. Now, again, the question on SoFi is, does it end up becoming a generational move like a Robinhood, Rocket Lab, Palantir, where it legit explodes, where like the entire world cannot deny, holy crap, SoFi, I would say you would want to put that price target at least at 35.40 to say it's a generational move. Or does it have a breakout around 21 to 25 and that's it? I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's up to Noto. But we've never seen Noto. Tanner made a good point yesterday on the podcast. We've never seen Noto in this situation where everything is working. He has rate cuts coming up. The stock has broken out. And you've got the macro environment from a deregulatory perspective for banks being in a very strong situation. We've never seen Noto have all those tailwinds behind him, and now he does. Robin right here trying to get back up to 100, just above 99. And if he can capitalize on that, maybe SoFi ends up, you know, really, really getting some of that momentum. But we're gonna have to see how that plays out going into the rest of the summer. Nvidia right here, 171, S&P 626, and then AMD just below 156. 230 is what you're seeing for the Trump AI announcement. Let me see if I can confirm that. If that's the case, I should be able to stream it. Trump is going to be in Pennsylvania today. Bloomberg's reporting that Alex Karp is going to be there. Oh, he's going to be with Senator Dave McCormick for the Energy and Innovation Summit on CMU's campus, Carnegie Mellon's campus. Okay, so that's definitely happening today. I will try to figure out what time, and if it's during the day, I will stream it, and we'll get to see what they say about the $70 billion investment. Pouncer 148, Nvidia 171, and then AMD right back over 157. She's not giving up 157, folks. She's not giving up 157. Where is Oklo? Oklo is down a little bit. Nano Nuclear is down a little bit. Grab holding 510. Reddit 144. Reddit is down. Meta flat. Amazon 226. Amazon, it's the highest level we've seen in a couple weeks on Amazon. Prime Day sales were up 30% year over year, folks. So if you bought anything on Prime, you helped out with Bezos's exit liquidity because he did sell more shares last week. But still, that is really good for Amazon. Microsoft 505, almost all-time highs. AMD 158, did we get there? Did we get? Oh, wow, she's running. She's running. AMD, baby. She's going to be carrying this portfolio of mine, dude. She's going to be carrying this portfolio. Robinhood, Robinhood. Give me Robinhood 100 at the same time. You give me AMD 158. Let me check 159 resistance and hood resistance at 100. 159 for AMD is 20,000 shares. That's nothing. 20,000 shares. I mean, that volume should come in, folks. We should break 159. And then Robinhood, which is 10 cents away from 100. I doubt there's any massive resistance there either. $100 has 10,000 shares. That's, again, nothing. You get the volume to come in. We are crushing those levels. We are crushing those levels. AMD right here, 158.28. I am so happy for those that are in AMD. I'm like genuinely so happy because this is a good company. Forget good company. It's a phenomenal company. Lisa Su is an exceptional CEO, and people that took a chance on this name and have been bag holding it for months. Like, you have to have a lot of conviction to hold on to the story. It was not a, scam, bankrupt, stupid company. It was a phenomenal company. They weren't growing as fast as Nvidia, but that was not a reason to, assume this company was dead. And it's always nice to see the market reward that patience. It is always, always nice to see the market reward that patience. My cost basis is 87. Yeah, put in the chat if you want what your cost basis is on AMD and how heavy you're into it. I don't own it. I have it in the ETF, more heavy on Nvidia, but very, very, very happy for people making money on this one. Nvidia right here, 171, Tesla 319, S&P, again, just a little bit below the high of day. And then SoFi 21, Robinhood, she's getting rejected as she gets close to 100. She got to 99.96, but there's no resistance. The thing is, she wants to make $100 as support. There she goes, got to 100. Like, we all know Robinhood wants $100 support, but I think for whatever reason, they're just keeping her below 100 every day. But yeah, we just touched 100.02 and then it got rejected again. I think $100, barring anything super crazy in the macro, I think $100 becomes support. There's just too much demand for these shares. Wow, dude. I see a lot of averages below 100 in the chat. I see a lot of averages below 100 in the chat. UNH right here is down with all the insurance companies. That one's getting hit. Oscar is that one getting hit. Oscar as well, down 3.3%. Robinhood right there, 99.93. AMD, 158.25. We got 100 shares at 108 from Sergio. We got Nerd 597, Elizabeth 600 at 101. Frank has 126 on AMD. Derek and Megan have 400 shares. Colton 113 cost basis, 16% of the port. Steven Stewart has 2100 AMDL at 839. I think that's 2x leveraged if I'm not wrong on AMDL, which is incredible. DevQ 58 shares, average 124. I mean, there's a lot of people here that are at least below 120, if not below 100. All right, now Hoodie's breaking out. 100.23. I think they want $100 support, bro. There's too much demand for these shares. You have too many catalysts coming up, particularly with S&P inclusion. We know their earnings are going to be massive. Like, every time this drops below, I think it just wants to get above. And now we're seeing some of that breakout. And we're seeing a breakout without Bitcoin. Bitcoin's actually down today. So it's nice to see Hood get some of that momentum even without Bitcoin. Ethereum is kind of breaking out above 3,000. Kind of breaking out right here. This is, I mean, we haven't seen this level in like a month at 3,050. Last time we saw it was 3,040. So not bad here at all. Carp and Trump is today. Yes, I believe. I'll try to get the exact time for you guys. I think it's at 2:30. I'll try to confirm, but it is definitely happening today. Now, we don't know if Carp's going to be there. Bloomberg said Carp's going to be there, but who knows if Bloomberg's going to be correct about that. But if he is, then obviously that would be really cool to see as a Pouncer shareholder. Eric has 800 shares at 110. Yeah, I mean, dude, a lot of you guys are loaded up well below 120 on this stock. AMD right here got to 150, 868, then got hit. Nvidia, they're taking it down every time it gets a little bit of momentum in the 170, 150 range. And then Robin at 120 back down to 99.98. I mean, again, a lot of these algos coming into play, but it seems like it wants to stay above 100. MP at all-time highs. Again, they got that in wow, 20%, dude. Robinhood right back to 100.28, dude. This is just like up and down, but you've got tons of buyers coming in right here. MP again, they got that investment by Apple, 500 million from Apple, and that is why they're getting this momentum. Solana's next. So remember, one thing to understand about Solana is, although I think it's an incredible blockchain, this thing was $9 back in 2022. So Solana has made a massive move. Like at one point it was more than 20x. Right now it's at like a 15x. So it's not like Solana. AMD has been the one that's really not really made him. I mean, at the lows, I think it was at 1,500. So now it's at 3,000. You got a double, but Bitcoin has more than quintupled, and Solana has 15x. So it's not like the other major blockchains out there haven't made a massive move. Now, could they make a bigger move? Yes. But Tom Lee is bullish on Ethereum because he's expecting a 5x. He's expecting, or at least a 3x, right? Assuming 10,000. He's expecting this to make a big move. And, you know, a lot of people have just been annoyed that Ethereum has lagged so much of the Solanas and the Bitcoins of the world. And so that is kind of the bull case that he sees on Ethereum. AMD right there, 157, SoFi 2130, Google at 182, Grab trying to break out from 510, Reddit 143, Amazon 226. And then Robinhood 100.5. All right, we'll check 101 resistance. Let's see if it's time for 101 on Hoodie. 101 has 10,000 shares. Again, not a lot of resistance. Oh, do we have a Trump tweet? Do we have a Trump tweet? Let's see. Let me see. Did he say something? Okay, we got a Trump tweet. Here we go, folks. We got a Trump tweet. Great deal for everybody. Just made with Indonesia. I dealt directly with their highly respected president. Details to follow. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Hopefully this is real. Trump tariffed Indonesia by 35% effective August 1st. It is July 15th. We got about 2 weeks till that deadline. Either he called him up or the Indonesian president called him up. Someone made the phone call and said, hey, let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. This is what we need to see for the rest of the next 2 weeks going into August. And if we do, bullish, because that means that the August 1st deadline is not going to be as bad as we thought it's going to be. And very bullish for rate cuts, because again, if we actually tariffed Indonesia by 30%, even if it didn't have a massive impact, J-Pow would be like, holy crap, I can't cut rates if we're tariffing Indonesia by 30%, whether that's justified or not. So we really need more of these types of tweets from Trump every day for the next 2 weeks. S&P not really moving heavily on that. Still a bit of a red candle. So he's not moving the market with that. In fact, he's kind of moving the market down. Nvidia, but back below 170. But bullish. Bullish. Does it help Grab? It helps the whole market. I mean, if we get trade deals, this helps that. Dude, again, I've been saying this for a while, AMD 157. The market has given Trump the benefit of the doubt. In the midst of every reason you could say the market doesn't deserve this high of a premium, the market has given the administration a higher premium. Bond yields, Moody's, bond auctions, Iran, Israel, yada, yada. I'm like everything you can say, tariffs on EU, like whatever you want to say, the market has been so resilient. The only thing I think they're asking for is some trade deals. That's it. They just, like the market just wants some confirmation that we're not going to go Liberation Day 2.0 on every single country. And by the way, the market's already acting like we're not going to do that, because if the market really believed all these letters that Trump's been putting out, we would not be at all-time highs on the S&P. But the market has basically brushed it off. Now they need legit confirmation that no, we're actually supposed to be brushing it off. And if Trump can give them that, then I think that would be bullish. But that is what we have to see. Nvidia is now larger than Apple by $1 trillion. Holy crap. Yeah, that's right. Apple's at 3.1, Nvidia's at 4.1. My goodness. Dude, the fact that we are alive to see this, I mean, just crazy. Nvidia 4.1 trillion over Apple. Now, granted, do we actually have a deal with Indonesia? I don't know. Trump could also be just saying something to say something here. Quite frankly, I don't care if we have a deal or not. I just care that Indonesia doesn't get a freaking 35% tariff because we can't afford that. So whatever concession Trump needs to get from Indonesia to like take away that tariff, even if it doesn't even meaningfully help the United States, even if it's just for show, I'm okay with it because we just can't afford the headline of these tariffs. Pouncer right here trying to get back to 149.50, breaking out a little bit. Where is SBET? SBET is up 7%. BMNR is up 4%. It is up 4%. Has there been a single deal completely finalized? I think the UK one has been the most final in terms of details. Everything else is, I still think, kind of up in the air. So we got to see. Munya, thank you for the 140 super chat. BT being flat after diluting last night at a share price below market value is bullish. Buckle up. ETH treasuries are here to stay. I didn't even know they diluted, so I'm trusting you on that one. But if they did dilute below their current stock price and the stock is only down 1% today, yeah, that's pretty damn bullish. Now, maybe the dilution wasn't that intense in terms of the number of shares. Like SBET diluted by 70 million shares 3 weeks ago, which is why it fell like 80%, but it started to recover. But if they diluted and they raised some money and the stock's barely down, if the strike price was below the current price, yeah, I mean, that means that people are willing to buy these Ethereum treasuries and hold on. It feels like that's kind of how that is being played out. SBET right here up now 8% and BMNR about 4%. S&P 626, Nvidia just below 170. They diluted for 67 million at $3.06. Wow. So if they did 67 million shares, if not $67 million, that's 180 million they raised, essentially almost 200 million. And the stock is barely budging. I mean, what's the volume on this thing today? How many people are trading it? BT volume is 9 million. Average volume is 27 million. So it's done a third of its volume in the first 30 minutes of trading. I mean, the volume on SBET is freaking 13 million. Average volume is 12 million. So that's already beating it. And then volume on BMNR is 2 million. Average volume is 6 million, on track to maintain that momentum. So yeah, the Ethereum treasuries, it doesn't look like they're going anywhere. $67 million. Okay. So they didn't raise 200 million. They raised 67 million, but still that's about 20 million shares that they dumped on the market. It's not bad. That's not bad at all. 22 million shares, 67.3 million. Yeah, dude, for that to be down 1% on that. I mean, BMNR did a 2 billion at the money and, that thing fell 70%. So granted, BMNR was up a lot more than BT, but still these Ethereum treasuries, I mean, Tom Lee might single-handedly be the guy to bring Ethereum into prominence. It's funny. You kind of needed someone from Wall Street like Tom Lee, who's not exactly, the typical Wall Street guy, but still you needed someone who has that type of a brand to bring Ethereum into light. Because if he didn't do this whole Bitmine thing, I don't know if anyone would care about Ethereum, dude. Because you can point to the stablecoin thesis and all this stuff, but you need someone to communicate that thesis. I mean, how many people has Mr. freaking Michael Saylor single-handedly orange-pilled just by going on podcasts and talking about the Bitcoin thesis? You need a messenger. You need an evangelist to be able to get that message out there. Grab right here at 514. Dude, Grab looks like she's coiling up. She needs a good earnings. If we get a $500 million adjusted EBITDA raise on Grab, right now they're guiding for 480 million, which I don't think they're going to do. They tend to Q3 do a massive raise, at least historically, not in Q2. But if they give us any big news in Q2, this one could be fun. This one could be fun. Where is TSM? TSM, there you go. TSM about 2.5%. That is green. AMD is not breaking over 158. They brought it back down to 155. Nvidia 169, and then SoFi right here 2133. Almost green, but not green yet. All right, so again, you're seeing the market kind of replicate what it did over the past couple of days. Pumps in the morning, even Robinhood, dude, barely holding 100. It's like kind of feels like algos are going in place, and there's a lot of demand for these shares, which is why we crack over 100. And then you just get a little bit of a sell-off right there above 100. Pounter as well, trying to get back to 149.50. She gets really close and then she gets rejected. 150 still has 250,000 shares, and the AMD at 155. Red Cat is down 3%. That's one of the drone companies. Cisco right here down 0.5%. Walmart's down 0.5%. Lyft's down a little bit. Uber is 90. Why? I don't know why Uber's down, but Uber's down. Oh, Waymo just announced something. I don't know if this is why Uber's down, but they have a partnership with Waymo, so I don't think it's that bearish. Waymo said 100 million rides. They've done 100 million fully autonomous rides on public roads. That's 200 trips to the moon and back. 100 million rides on Waymo. Are we at 44 on Rocket Lab? Are we at 44? Wow, we touched 44. Holy crap. 44 on Rocket Lab. 44. There she is. 4403. Dude. This freaking name. This freaking name. Rocket Lab. Wow, dude. Yes, it's still not profitable. Yes, it trades at a very expensive price to sales, not price to earnings, but price to sales. But it's only 20 billion. SpaceX is at 400 billion. If space is becoming a thematic that investors want to allocate to, I mean, there's your thesis, along with all the other fundamental elements of Rocket Lab that maybe don't quantitatively justify the valuation, but still, you know, if we get any resemblance of Neutron in 2025, I think the market would be excited. So congrats to the Rocket Lab team. I mean, again, this is why I'm saying it's a community effort. I would have not invested in Rocket Lab if it were not for you guys and Matt Money. Matt Money being a personal friend, but a lot of you guys every day in the chat sharing the DD on Rocket Lab is really what also got me when it dipped in April. I didn't get the exact low at 15, but I got 22, which is, you know, not the exact low, but still not a bad entry. And I said, screw it. We're going to take a shot on Rocket Lab. And here we are. I mean, absolutely incredible. More than doubling from the lows of April right here. Now, I am very prepared for this one to come down on a crappy earnings or whatever, because I didn't expect it to be here, but I'm not selling. And I'm kind of just holding this on for the long haul right here. Palantir 149.20, Tesla 318, Robinhood 100.2, ASTS as well. That one's back at 48. I don't have an entry on this, unfortunately, but I know a lot of you do, and this one has been an incredible name all year for a lot of people. Where is HIMS? HIMS is flat on the day, down about 1%, but HIMS at least is not stuck in the low 40s after the Novo stuff. Aspet's up 12%. SMCI is getting a bit, I guess, because SMCI is one of the main suppliers from a liquid cooling perspective for the GPUs on Nvidia. So if Nvidia can sell more to China, SMCI can sell more to China. I mean, I think that's the reason SMCI is running. I feel like that would be the argument. Palantir 149.30, but SMCI getting a lot of love outside of the other derivative semiconductor plays right here. Hood back to 100. It's like 4 or 5 times. Touching 100 here. Where's Weeble? Where is this piece of crap? Where's Weeble? 1252. All right, so I've covered calls on this at 1450 for this week. I'm just going to keep running those calls. But at least it's not like below $10 after that Yorkville deal, but it's definitely kind of just flat. Small caps are struggling today. Is anyone still heavy in the small cap trade? Tom Lee doesn't talk about it that much anymore, although they are still bullish if you look at FundStrat's research. But he's not calling for some massive outperformance. I think even Tom Lee recognized, wait a second, people want to invest in the greatest companies on the planet, even if you've got small caps that are dirt cheap compared to the S&P 500. The S&P 500 has the best companies in the world. And at the end of the day, people want to buy that. So there you go. Did we get another Trump tweet? Grab is not really a small cap. It's at 20 billion. I would say small cap is more 5 billion and under. But the fact that they have like 8 billion in cash to me means that, I mean, if its enterprise value is 10 billion, which definitely does make it a smaller company. Okay. Trump just tweeted, consumer prices low, bring down the Fed rate now. Consumer prices low, bring down the Fed rate now. Dude, every day it's the same sentence. It's the same sentence. Bring down the Fed rate. Small caps won't run until rate cuts. Okay, but that's what I heard last year as well. And we had 4 rate cuts and small caps didn't really run. So I agree. They definitely don't have a chance to run until we get rate cuts, but will people actually buy, like, would people buy more Nvidia when we get rate cuts? I think so. Would people really buy small cap? I don't know. Again, I have no position, so I would love to see it happen, but I am curious, will people actually pile into what is a lot of, quite frankly, junk companies in the IWM that have tons of debt? They're not horrible companies, but they're just not the types of balance sheets like a Nvidia or a Tesla or a Google or an Amazon, right? So I would be curious to see if that rotation happens. QuantumScape, is that one moving? QS, that one's up 8%. That one is also moving. Jake, thank you for the $20 super chat. I hit $100,000 in my portfolio today. Started investing 5 years ago. Shout out to Mitt, Tom Nash. Both of you played a huge role in my early investing journey. And of course, I couldn't have done it without my baby Palantir. Jake, congrats, brother. 100,000 is not easy to achieve, especially in the United States. I mean, everyone knows this stat by now that the average American does not have $500 in an emergency account. And I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy to get $100,000 saved, much less to have that $100,000 compounded via investing. So absolutely incredible milestone. And it's the beauty of the markets, right? Like if you have 10,000 shares of Nvidia today and it's up $6, you are up $60,000. If you have 500 shares of Nvidia today and it's up $6, you are up $3,000. The number of shares multiplied by the dollar move on a stock, especially if you're concentrated, because retail investors tend to be more concentrated, right? We tend to make our bets and then we hope those bets work out. Those are massive moves on a portfolio, on your personal net worth in seconds. Now, no one talks about all the hard work of finding those companies and making sure you stay with them through the ups and the downs. But when they make their move, they make their move. And when they get re-rated and you're someone like Louis, who messaged me last night, Louis, friend of the channel, hopefully he's watching here, but if he's not, he's probably just staring at his Nvidia position right now. He has 91,000 shares of Nvidia at $2. He messaged me last night as soon as the news came out. He was like, holy crap. Wait, so let's do the calculation. Nvidia's up $6. He has 91,000. So 91,000 times 6. That means today he's up $500,000. He's up $500,000. Right, oh, there he is. There he is. There's Louis. There he is in the chat. Shout out to Mr. Louis. Hopefully we'll get him on the channel one day and he'll be able to explain his journey of how he ended up allocating to Nvidia in 2016. But like it's the power of compounding. And getting that first 100,000, it will compound, especially if you're invested in the generational companies. And that is the very special nature of this market. Nvidia right here, 170, Palantir up. Is she trying to go for it, folks? Is she trying to give us 150? Let's see. Guys, do we ring the big bell at 150? Do we ring the big bell or no? The big bell is the bell right there. It's the Palantir bell. One of you guys gave it to me at a meetup. It's literally a Palantir branded cowbell. I think at 150 we ring it. I think, oh my God. Oh, there we go. $150 on Palantir. 150, folks. I think we got to do it. I think we've got to do it. We've been covering this name since $7. It has been a hell of a journey. A lot of you guys have been part of that journey. I built my entire channel and brand on this journey. So the gratitude I will have for this company is more than I can ever imagine. $150. This is the Palantir bell. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. 150 on Palantir. $150. Holy crap, dude. 1 freaking 50. We had 115.13. We had 115.13. Oh my goodness, dude. Like it has just been a hell of a run. It's hard to even describe it. 150 has no more resistance. 151 has about 18,000 shares. 18,000 shares. Yes, that is a real cowbell. That is a real cowbell that we have. I'm sorry if it hurt everyone's ears, but 150. Yeah, I almost took myself out here as well. There she is. 150, dude. And a lot of this is happening, obviously, because of Nvidia, right? If Nvidia is going to show as much demand as they're showing, then the derivative software plays, there she goes, 150 again, are going to get a bit of a bid. Salesforce is not moving like this. Adobe's not moving like this. You know, Datadog's not moving like this. This is a one-of-a-kind unicorn company. Market cap on Palantir right here, $354 billion. $354 billion. Now, look, let me just address. Obviously, it's expensive. It's aggressive. Not going to get up here and say Palantir is a cheap stock at 150, but it wasn't a cheap stock at 60. Wasn't a cheap stock at 45. Obviously, in hindsight, it looks cheap because the stock price has moved. But like from an actual fundamental basis, it was never quote unquote cheap. But that's not what this stock has ever traded on. And it just like, you just kind of have to accept that. Or you think it's a massive bubble and it's going to collapse by 50%. It's one or the other. I tend to be on the side that it's more of a unicorn and it gets a premium from the street because it's one of the only names that can grow at 40% with 45% adjusted operating margins. And I think in Q2 earnings, they're going to once again prove that. Palantir right here, 149.94. Tesla 318, Nvidia 170, Hood 100.54. You got Grab at 512, Google 182, SoFi at 21.43. And then you got Palantir right there, just below 150. This was Steve's original price target. This was Steve's original price target. Now, he was joking about it when he said it, but still, this is what Steve said. Steve said 150. Coinbase 400. Is Coin trying to go for 400? Wow, Coinbase. Yeah, touch 400, folks, for the first time since freaking 2021. Look at that. Look at this chart. For the first time since April 2021, Coinbase has touched 400. Coinbase got to freaking $24. It is 20x'd since December 2022. Largely in part because Bitcoin has 5x since then. But still, I mean, just an incredible business. Shout out to Brian Armstrong. If you're heavy in Coinbase, congratulations. Massive for Coinbase. Palantir again, right back to 150. Amazon 227. There you go. Amazon 227. Amazon getting a bit of a move. Look at Tanner in the chat. Please check the stock draft for me. I must be doing well by now. Tanner, we checked it already. You are doing pretty well, but let's refresh it. Tanner is at 10.74%. Matt's at 15. I'm at 6.5. Steve's at 2.9. Chris is still negative 0.46. He was negative 0.57 in the morning. So it's Matt, Tanner, Amit, Steve, and then Chris. Dude, 150.50. Oh my goodness, dude. Are we going to 151? Are we going to 151, folks? Dude, this is it's unbelievable. It's just like, again, it's just one of those things, dude. We got to cherish this journey. I don't know how many we get of these. We kind of have been able to see something similar happen with Hood. Hood's not at 150, but still from 7 to 100 has been sort of the same persona as Palantir's run. And maybe S&P inclusion really takes it higher, but Palantir from last year at 16 in January, 7 in May of 2023, S&P inclusion, NASDAQ inclusion, NATO deals. I mean, just on and on and on with momentum. And we're here at 150.3. By the way, for those that have not kept up with the actual stuff that Palantir's been doing over the past couple of weeks, I mean, it's a lot. Accenture deal, $100 million nuclear deal, Blue Forge Alliance with Warp Speed deal, SAP partnership, Fannie Mae deal, Bain deal, Ecuador Customs Agency. I mean, there's lots of more that I didn't put on this tweet, but they've been executing, and they've been executing at a very high level, which is why Palantir is getting this momentum. And again, it's expensive. Like, I get it. Like, I know a lot of people are listening to this and they're probably like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. Like, how can this happen? How is he justifying it? I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying the market is deciding how to rate Palantir. I think I've done hopefully a decent job over the past couple of years covering the story and the narrative from a quantitative and qualitative perspective. And the market is doing what it wants to do with it, with that information, and giving it the premium. But it's like, I mean, how do you justify Palantir price to sales is at 114? I can't justify that from the numbers. So I don't even think using the numbers makes sense here. Either you assume it's a bubble and it's going back down to 75, which I don't, or maybe it doesn't have to stay at, these elevated levels. Maybe it kind of, it consolidates a little bit to the downside, which is fine. That would be healthy and that would be normal. But even if it goes to 120, it's still going to have a price of sales of like 97. Is that a healthy multiple on a price of sales? No. So it's like using these numbers at this point to me is just like, if after a freaking 30% drawdown, everyone would say Palantir is still ridiculously overvalued, then what is the difference between 30% up or 30% down? If it's still going to be ridiculously quote unquote overvalued. So I don't know, like the numbers at this point from a multiples perspective, if you're using that to justify Palantir's valuation or not justify it, I think it kind of misses the point of what Tom Lee said on my podcast a couple weeks ago, which is that Palantir is a one-of-one company, and these one-of-one companies tend to get some premiums. And that premium is being rewarded today by investors. 150 right here on Palantir. Oh, dude, I got to tweet the screenshot on this. Holy crap, I got to do a screenshot on this. There she is, 150 on Palantir. My goodness, this is incredible. This is incredible. Robinhood still over 100, Tesla 318, Nvidia 170, S&P 626, AMD 156. SoFi goes green, 2144, Google 182, and then Grab 514. Reddit 144.86. Reddit is down a little bit right here. How's Snowflake doing? That's a good question. Snowflake 213. Snowflake, is this still down from IPO? Hold on. Snowflake from IPO. Holy crap, it's still down 10%. Dude, can you believe people thought we were the idiots for investing in Palantir over freaking Snowflake? Palantir is up 1,500%. That's called shareholder value. And you got Snowflake down 11% all the time. I mean, again, dude, the special thing about this story, the real special thing about this story, you know, I've actually never told you guys this, but there's something really special about Palantir that I've always resonated with, and I've never told you guys this, but I think it kind of contextualizes how I feel about this entire journey. When I was in debate, and for those that don't know, I was top 7 debater in the United States of America, 2016. I was top 3 public speaker in Europe. For those that already know about this, I'm just reiterating the stat to annoy you guys. But for those that don't know, that's the stats on my debate career. And I made sure to tell Bloomberg that when I was on Bloomberg talking about Palantir 2 months ago. When I was in debate, one of the things that I was known for across the national circuit in debate was that when I argued, a lot of my argumentation was rooted in storytelling versus only being rooted in like the statistical analysis on a topic, right? So for example, we had this topic, I'll never forget it, back in 2015. This was my senior year, or sorry, this is my junior year. It was the United States ought to guarantee a living wage. That was the topic. The United States ought to guarantee a living wage. And my analysis on the affirmative, when you had to affirm the topic or negate the topic on both sides, my analysis on the affirmative was a deeply rooted philosophical argument about what does it mean to value a human being's life. And we can't put a monetary value on that. $7, $8 an hour, $15. We have to think of it on a philosophical level, rooted in the right to flourish in society, aka the right to live. And as a result, the entire affirmative case that I had was rooted in a story about what it means to philosophically think about a living wage. Not necessarily, okay, well, if we increase the living wage from $7.25 to $8.25, then the impact on GDP, yada, yada. All that stuff was still part of my argument. Like, I had to know that stuff, right? Because people would bring up those arguments. But the fundamental underlying ethos of the case was around the story. I think the reason Palantir is kind of related to me in my debate career is that Palantir has not always been about the numbers. It's been about a story. Like, and you can't, I mean, like literally, we're looking at a $350 billion market cap on a company doing about $500 million in profit. You cannot tell me this is a story rooted in numbers. Now, the numbers are pretty damn good from an adjusted operating perspective, from a leverage perspective, from a top line revenue growth perspective, but none of those can meaningfully say, all right, give it a $400 billion market cap, right? No one would actually say that. There has to be a story that's involved in this name to get people excited to buy in. And I think the story on Palantir, which I'm not going to go through all the different parts of the story, but one of the stories has been defending Western values, Karp being this eccentric CEO, giving value before caring about being monetized, right? Making sure you care about the customer instead of being a snake oil salesman, like all these freaking SaaS companies that just try to charge you to lock in a contract but don't actually deliver value. And all those stories combined with a variety of other stories have developed into this thesis that people have bought into. It is not a fictional story, just like my affirmative arguments. Again, I was a nationally competitive debater. I won multiple championships. I wasn't winning those championships because I sounded pretty. It's because the stories that I was telling and articulating, they had emotional components to it, which got ultimately a judge to buy into my story, aka getting investors to buy into the story. And it got judges to vote for me because they just felt more compelled in my thesis versus the opponent. And so, look, I mean, the correlation I'm making right here is that Obviously, the numbers are important. The valuation is important. All of that matters. But I think the reason, even the street, forget retail. I mean, retail bought in at $6 because it was ridiculously cheap and because the story was so special. But if there are institutions buying at 150 right here, they're not buying because the valuation is attractive. They're buying because they think Palantir is going to be the de facto AI software play over the next decade. And they are willing to pay whatever multiple they have to pay. So, I don't know. I think there's a different way to think about it in the context of Palantir. All right, so that's what we got, 149.49. Let's bring on a guest on this show to help us make sense of what the heck is going on in the semiconductor space and what's going on with Nvidia. Ladies and gentlemen, the best semiconductor analyst, not on YouTube, not on the internet, on the freaking planet, Mr. Jose. Jose, what's up?
Thank you. Appreciate that. Doing pretty good. I mean, I opened the portfolio today and I literally said WTF. Pretty excited. So a lot of great news. I mean, we saw kind of that Nvidia export restrictions, and yesterday we even saw Meta Platforms announce that they're going to do some massive investments in AI, which at the end both trickle down to some great excitements for one, the semiconductor industry, and two, the AI innovation era that we're in right now.
So, okay, before we get into the nitty gritty of it, and guys, if you have any specific questions on semis, put them in the chat because we're going to definitely make use of Jose and try to get some answers out of him on what's going on. When you woke up this morning and saw your portfolio, just walk me through, like, where you, was a Lambo on the other Google tab? Like, how are you thinking of it today?
No, it's just nice. I mean, it's nice seeing. I saw obviously the movement yesterday with the Robinhood 24. Actually, I got the news because of you. I had just finished my video yesterday, and I had just posted one of my videos on my YouTube channels, and I saw you were live streaming with Tanner and I forget some other gentleman, and you guys were talking about Nvidia. I'm like, it's pretty late for people to be talking about Nvidia right now, so I jumped straight into X to see what was going on, and I'm like, I guess I have to make another video. I guess I'm not going to sleep just yet. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting. Obviously, I mean, every few percentage is life-changing money at the end of the day for me, luckily. So it's nice. It's nice.
Okay, so
I like to take my excitement because obviously things can change out of the blue. But it's always definitely nice to see things play out the way you hope things would do.
Yeah, I agree. And for a lot of stocks in the market right now, if they take a bit of a haircut, I mean, we have to expect that because they're running like crazy. But it is nice to see the street kind of continue to expand their multiple based on new excitement. So let's get into what Jensen said today. Let me just play a clip real quick for everyone who didn't see this clip. I don't know if you saw this, Jose. This is Jensen in China specifically talking about the announcement, and then I want to get your reaction to how big of a deal this is for Nvidia. Let me just pull this up right here. And then we'll
yeah, I haven't seen this, so I'll definitely, this is my first time watching this.
Well, there's some nice little, let's just say the music in the background, that's the sound of money. That's the sound of money.
I'm announcing that the U.S. government has approved for us filing licenses to start shipping H20s. Okay. And so we will start to sell H20s to the Chinese market. And I'm looking forward to shipping H20s very soon. And so I'm very happy with that very, very good news. The second news is that we're also announcing a new GPU called RTX Pro. And RTX Pro is very important because it's designed for computer graphics in digital twins and AI.
It's legit the sound of money, bro. I could listen to that all day. I could listen to that all day. So
I agree. And it's important because there's two things that he mentions, right? First, the H20 going back into China is a big deal. But it is important to remember how he says it. It's not that the export restrictions are going away. It's just that the United States is approving these licenses for right now, right? So it's a big difference. It doesn't completely scare me, but it's like, what happens if maybe China eventually does something scary and it's like United States is like, finally, we're going to cut off these licenses. But it's not a complete removal of export restrictions yet. Nvidia is going to be able to send H20 to China. The great thing is we heard from last quarter, right? I think last quarter they mentioned that in quarter two, they lost about $8 billion in revenue just because of the China export restrictions in one quarter. So now 8 billion, assuming there's no growth from there, assuming there's no growth, that gives you a run rate annually of about $32 billion in revenue. Now, $32 billion in revenue. If you give this China market a price to sales ratio of just 10, which is very cheap, in my opinion, that's already a $320 billion market cap being added in forms of just price to sales valuation of what you can sell to China. So I think it's huge. And I do believe this movement is very, very much needed, a 4% up right now. And that was just expecting no growth rate. If we are seeing AI continue to innovate in the consumer space, inference going to continue to grow. You're going to need more computational power. So I see this as they're going to grow even more and more in that market there. So pretty exciting. The second thing is they mentioned this RTX Pro GPU, which is good for digital twins. This is one that is compliant. It doesn't even need export restriction licensing laws. So they can just sell this one nonstop over and over to whoever wants it. So two market opportunities, two nice tailwinds. Now, my question is, we know that NVIDIA had to write off some inventory in the past. That means they have some of these H20s probably unlocked right now or somewhere in their inventory bank. Their quarter ends July 31st. They're actually about a quarter after traditional quarters. So if they're able to ship and these chips get to the places where they need to get before the end of the quarter, we can actually see a nice beat in earnings just because they had an extra week or two of sending some of these chips. So it's all about revenue recognition. But if the chips can make it to where they need to land before July 31st, and if the approval is pretty quickly, again, we don't know how quickly these licenses can take, it can help out overall kind of the expectations. More importantly, guidance for the rest of the year, in my opinion, is insane because 8 billion, they did 8 billion that they lost and we're still matching guidance expectations.
Yeah.
Now with this added, I know analysts are going back to their drawing boards and re-upping all the estimates they can at the moment.
Well, the thing is, they took that $5 billion charge off last quarter, but they reallocated 4.8 out of the 5.5 billion into repurposing those GPUs. So they would have had, as you said, a $53 billion quarter. It ends up being a little bit lower because of the China stuff. If you bring that stuff back pretty soon, which is what it looks like is happening, your argument basically is the reason for this move today is because every analyst has to essentially up their EPS estimates and their revenue targets.
Yep, agree. Exactly. Now I want to say the scary part is yesterday, China market was tailwind. It was, when was this market going to turn back on? I think now it's, unfortunately, the media is going to play it the other way, where now the question is, the China market is now a headwind. When is this going to be turned off? Is there the potential of this being turned off anytime soon? So now you're going to start to see maybe a lot of more negative press of, oh, look, this is export restrictions might be coming back up. So I think volatility is still going to stay in this market just because we keep seeing switches happening with the export restrictions. But I think with the H20, we're not shipping the best of the best chip. So I think we might be a little bit safe here with the NVIDIA export restrictions. And obviously it bodes well for, like, in theory, AMD, because AMD also had to take a bit of a hit. There's probably some people asking on the chat, what about AMD? So AMD can obviously benefit from this as well, as there are reports that their MI308, which they took about, I think, a $1.5 billion loss in revenue for the next 2 quarters because they can't ship there anymore. If they open back up, if they get the approval of license, that can also be really good for AMD. And I believe that's the main reason AMD, AMD just said it will restart shipping the MI3. So for them, it's a way bigger deal, right? It's a $200 billion market cap. So any extra billy here or there for AMD can really help out that revenue growth and that earnings per share growth. So I can see why AMD, I think, was up about 7%. Yep, 7%.
Does AMD
right now
deserve this type of a move? Because is the amount they're going to be selling it to China meaningfully mean their earnings estimates change, or is it not as much as Nvidia?
I think because they have a smaller base, they start off from a smaller base, even an extra few hundred million can make that revenue growth rate seem a lot bigger. So in forms of actual market, no, but in forms of how it looks in their revenue numbers and then obviously in their earnings, which is what is important, right? It's how it deals for you. For them independently, yes, I think it's definitely going to be meaningful. And we did see kind of some excitement for the new chip that they announced, the MI350. So again, I think analysts here are going to kind of go increase, even if they increase revenue expectations by just an extra 500 million per year or extra billion per the year, the revenue growth rate would be a lot higher for AMD. So I can see the excitement here for AMD as well. But for me, I think the real winner is Nvidia.
Okay, let's talk about another name. By the way, guys, Robinhood back to 101. Of course, Jose's on, so Robinhood goes up. So there you go. And then Palantir maybe trying to crack 151. Jose, what the hell is going on with Micron, dude? Why is this one being a disappointment in the semiconductor space? And it's up 35% year to date, but like, is there really an oversupply issue of HBMs?
I don't think so. I saw there was I think yesterday there was some analyst, I'm not sure from where, saying that the HBM market is seeing some softness. I think this is what happens when maybe you don't follow the market as well. I'm not saying, I don't know that analyst, but HBM, you can't just say HBM. HBM is not just one thing. There's various generations. There's HBM2, HBM3, HBM4, and the list goes on. And within each variation, there's more variations within there. There's HBM3, HBM3E, HBM3 8 high, 12 high, and the list goes on and on. The ones that Micron is focusing on, which is these advanced form of HBM that is used on the MI300, the MI350, the GB200, all these advanced AI chips, that one, there's definitely no softness. Maybe there is some HBM softness on the older generations, which become more of a commodity. But Micron's HBM market is more dependent on advanced technology. So I think maybe some of those analysts might just be grouping HBM as a whole when there's a lot of ways you have to look at it. And Micron, I mean, you can benefit from just the growth of, it doesn't matter what AI chip company wins, you're going to need some form of HBM solution integrated into that chip. And like I mentioned yesterday, we saw Meta announce that massive data center deal. A lot of memory is not just memory in your AI accelerators. Memories go all over the AI server, so they can win big there. So I'm not a Micron shareholder, but I would say I'm not a fan of that recent analyst and the reasons why maybe they might be pushing the stock down.
So you think it's a nothing burger for Nvidia?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's still so much demand for Micron and for Nvidia right now.
Okay. VRT, they had some news in regards to Amazon building some of their own liquid cooling technology. Do you think that matters in the semiconductor space, or it's just inevitable?
Yeah, I mean, I think with these massive data center companies, your top four players, your Amazon, or your top three players, your Amazon, your Google, and your Microsoft, all these players like to do everything internally because they build massive fleets, right? They build massive amounts of data centers. They don't want to pay that premium to anybody else. That's why, for example, AWS and all these players, they don't buy servers from companies like Dell, like HP or anybody. They have teams do their own servers because it's better for their margins. They don't buy anything from Supermicro. So when it comes to the hyperscalers, I don't think you should ever try to correlate them with third parties like Vertiv, like Supermicro, because typically they don't play in that game. So Amazon's liquid solution is pretty cool. The video was amazing. I'm not a Vertiv shareholder, but I would consider it a nothing burger for Vertiv stock.
Rocket Lab, by the way, guys, $44.50. It's trying to get to that $45 level. Marvell, any thoughts on this one over the past couple of weeks?
I mean, I'm still bullish on this one. I like this one. Amazon is building one of the biggest data centers using Trainium 2, which is built with Marvell technology. So I like it. I'm still owning. I purchased in the 60s. I've actually also purchased in the low 70s. So even at these price points, I'm still very much bullish. I do believe the networking and their ASIC solutions has vast opportunity. And I think the company is at a market cap of about $50-60 billion.
Okay, so let's talk about Meta. But before we do that, real quick, guys, please make sure to subscribe to whatthehappened.com. This is Jose's newsletter. I'm putting his Twitter in the chat as well. It is one of the best semiconductor newsletters that you can get in the market. And I'm putting his Twitter as well, where you can follow him to get updated on his tweets. Yeah, Meta. I mean, is Zuck's just becoming a madman at this point?
He's definitely a madman, but I think it's a madman that's going to work. I wonder how the market is going to see it because, I mean, he's spending, he said he's building multiple gigawatts of data centers. He's going to be the first one to have a 1 gigawatt data center up and running. Now, first, this is extremely bullish for the semiconductor space because Jensen has mentioned for every gigawatt of data center being built out, it's about $40 to $60 billion in AI hardware. So you can kind of go, it could be bullish for AMD, it could be bullish for Nvidia, it could be bullish for Arista Networks, and the list goes on and on. So 1 gigawatt of plus, and then they're building multi-gigawatt clusters. Prometheus, for example, is coming online, and Hyperion is going to be one that can scale to 5 gigawatts. So Meta has a lot of money to spend on AI investments, and they're going to do it. Now, to make these types of investments, they're going to need to seriously increase capital expenditure. They already increased their CapEx last quarter. I think it still needs to go much higher than that for these types of investments. I mean, they made all these acquisitions there. My question is how the market is going to react to that. I'm actually all bullish for it. I hope the market hates it because I do believe there's a potential that Meta might slow down maybe some dividends, might slow down maybe their buyback program, might see a decrease in free cash flow. And I think the market is going to run with that scary thesis that Meta has gone crazy. But the talent that he has poached, the equipment that he's buying, and the way he's trying to move at rapid scales, I think it's even going to make OpenAI feel scared in the AI market.
Do you think the street will give him the benefit of the doubt and just say, all right, he's going for it, and like we can't be upset if he's spending a lot of money?
I don't know. I guess right now, because we are in the AI era, they might. I'm hoping they don't, because I would like a buying opportunity for Meta. I think the street, though, at least for now, would give them maybe a benefit of the doubt and say, look, you did really well with these AI investments. We're seeing it in your ad business. Maybe we'll give you a quarter or two. But I think sometimes Wall Street is a little bit too impatient. So while maybe they might be happy this first quarter, they might be already waiting for results quarter 2 or quarter 3, which it takes years for us to get at least some real results on these types of investments. And I wonder when will Wall Street start to be impatient for Meta?
Right. Yeah, because it's what he did back in 2022. Now, the metaverse ultimately didn't have anything special, but AI, I think everyone can agree there is something special there. And so that might be one of the core reasons why the street's giving him some love. Jose's YouTube, everybody, right there in the chat as well. So please make sure to subscribe to his YouTube to get updated on semiconductor news. ASML right here, Jose. Is this one going to get the tailwind of China revenue coming back as well to Nvidia?
I don't think so. I mean, there's not a real issue in the supply chain within the lithography machine, right? In the semiconductor market, there's a lot of different steps that happen to make a chip, where the supply bottleneck is not with the lithography machine. Now, there are a lot of reasons to be bullish on ASML. You're seeing semiconductor manufacturing plants being built all over the world, and they're going to end up buying ASML machines. You see the pickup of the consumer market, which means you need more supply chain lines. So I think the AI chip from like China isn't a big deal for ASML, but I think the overall ecosystem and a lot of the technology changes that are happening with the manufacturing is going to be bullish for ASML. And luckily, hopefully, we won't have that long to wait as the company does report earnings tomorrow. And we will see kind of how some other bookings part. So long term, I am very bullish on ASML, but I don't believe the AI chip news has really much to do with any of their inventory and equipment.
Yeah, I forgot they do have earnings tomorrow. So that'll be the first of and they're going to report at like 2:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time because they're in the Netherlands. So
yeah,
that one's going to be a little bit early in the night. Rocket Lab right here, trying to go for 45. She's getting close, but she's not exactly there yet. Jose, Broadcom, I would imagine this NVIDIA news is bullish for them.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it's right now just seeing that excitement for the semiconductor industry. I think for them, it was mainly the Meta news. The Meta news is definitely pretty strong for them, as a lot of networking solutions do come from Broadcom that somehow end up into the Meta platform. So I think China news, maybe some good news. It's more just the bullish sentiment towards the semiconductor space. I think the Meta announcement, and the reason I forgot to mention, if Meta's making these types of investments, right, what's going to stop Microsoft from doing it? What's going to stop Google from doing it? No one's going to let anyone take the lead in this race. If Meta's saying, look, I'm building a 1 gigawatt by the end of 2026, I'm hoping all these other players come out and saying, look, we also have a 1 gigawatt data center plan being built right now, and we're going to have it around that same time frame, because Meta is not going to take this market. It's not going to win in this space. So we are in a race where if somebody starts to take the lead, everybody else is going to open up their wallet and say, Jensen, how many more chips can I buy right now? How many more do you have for me? Can I get some for next day delivery? So it's the spending of Meta is going to accelerate. I would be surprised if we don't see some capital expenditure increasement announcements happen this quarter from big tech, especially with the Meta announcement.
Yeah, if they're all going after it and Zucks is willing to spend as much as he's spending, I mean, you just can't deny that there's market opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
SMCI, that one has to be a direct beneficiary of more servers for GPUs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, right now, the great thing is more enterprises are entering into the AI market. Supermicro doesn't sell to like your Meta or your like I mentioned, they don't sell to your big players because those big players do it themselves for cheaper reason. But what we're seeing right now is the whole enterprise as a space is picking up the AI market in general. So Supermicro is benefiting from that. Main reason I don't own this hardware business is a little bit too competitive for my taste. But there's definitely a lot of growth opportunities for this one, as I've mentioned previously.
All right, last question for you, Jose. What do you think about this? Nvidia saying we're proud to partner with OpenAI, and they tweeted an article headline from Reuters that OpenAI is not using Google. I mean, is this Nvidia just saying we're the big daddy here when it comes to chips?
It is. It was one of the. If I was to ever complain about something about Nvidia, it would be this. I didn't like it. If you're the top dog, you don't worry about anything else. You don't let rumors or anything bother you. You're the top dog for a reason. And obviously it's not Jensen tweeting this, right? It's definitely not. It's probably some intern. I don't like it because it makes it seem that you're worried, right? It makes it showcase that you're a little bit scared. And I don't think Nvidia has anything to be scared. They don't need to prove anything to anybody. And that's why I didn't like it. But it's definitely a nice shot at Google and everybody else. But to me, it wasn't the best thing I've seen from Nvidia out there.
Gotcha. Okay, real quick rapid fire for you, Jose. Nebius, any thoughts on this one real quick?
I actually like it. I like it. I'm bullish in it. Neo has been talking to my ear left and right on this one. I actually just did a video on this during this past weekend. I don't own it. I luckily I got into CoreWeave very early. I've been selling out of CoreWeave. I'm looking for a better price, but just Monday, this got hit with the freaking price target right when I was thinking of maybe starting a position. So I think I don't want to chase. I don't want to chase this one, but I see the opportunity here. Definitely a lot of opportunity. Like I mentioned, they have obviously their AI space, but they have a lot of acquisitions and investments in other AI plays, and the autonomous vehicle road as well. So bullish for Nebius. One I'm not chasing, but if maybe I sell some positions, I maybe wouldn't mind dabbling into this one a bit. Navitas,
any updated thoughts on this one?
I actually have I would say like a YOLO play on this right now. I've become somewhat of a degenerate gambler.
Are you buying options, Jose?
No, not yet. I'm still doing just pure. I mean, I do some options. I don't do option calls. I do a lot of selling of option puts, just to get a nice income coming in. But for Navitas, I did buy. I think it was like somewhere around 10,000 worth of shares, $10,000 worth, nothing crazy. But I see the overall momentum right now in the semiconductor industry that can just help some trend. Again, for me, it's a very small position, so it's not like it's a destroy or kill my portfolio, but I see some momentum there, and I just want to do full disclosure before I kind of like either talk good or bad about that one.
Okay. Any thoughts on GitLab at all?
I like it. This is one of my biggest semiconductor plays. I like it at 40s, in the low 40s, less than $10 billion market cap. They are a big player in the software space. They're integrating AI solutions into their plays. This is one of the few outside of the semiconductor markets that has a meaningful position in my portfolio, and pretty crazy. in the channel, we've been talking about it like in the low 40s, mid 45s. And I believe this one is going to be one that can benefit from this AI era, starting from the hardware space, moving to the cloud source space. Then we're going to see it move into the software space. I don't know when that software era will finally pick up, but I think GitLab can definitely benefit from it.
Are you saying it's a semiconductor space because of their role with the hyperscalers? Because it's a software company, right?
Yeah. So no. So what I'm saying is this is outside of my semiconductor play that I own. And I think the AI market first started with the semiconductor plays. Those were the first winners. The semiconductor and hardware winners were the first winners of the AI market. Then the second winners were the cloud service providers. They're the ones that started showcasing real results with this AI era. I think the next era here in the AI space is going to be the software plays that are going to benefit from this AI innovation. And I think GitLab is one of those that falls within that era that should be happening, in my opinion, in the near future.
Got it. Last two, Qualcomm. Any thoughts on this one?
Very cheap in forms of valuation. This has the opportunity with Internet of Things. They provide a lot of chips that can go into like your AR, VR glasses that go into the vehicles. When the market sees that as a real opportunity, I think Qualcomm can fly, but I don't know when we're really going to see augmented reality glasses, virtual reality glasses pick up, AI glasses pick up in the consumer space. Luckily, we have Google recently announced that their Google I/O, kind of those VR AI glasses. When those pick up, I think Qualcomm can benefit because those chips are actually kind of co-designed and worked around with Qualcomm. So a lot of opportunity here once it wakes up. The real question is, when is it waking up, and when is the consumer market gonna like AI tech?
All right, and the final one, TSM. Any thoughts on that?
Earnings coming out on Thursday for this one. Super excited. They are destroying. They give us monthly numbers, so we know they are destroying it. Pretty exciting. I don't own it. I'd rather own a semiconductor ETF outside of TSM because TSM is pretty much the market. So it's pretty much the semiconductor market. Why kind of put my risk in one basket? And I'd rather go with the ETF approach, but still very bullish in there. Earnings are Thursday. What I want to hear from them is, how is the AI demand for the upcoming quarters? What's kind of the manufacturing happening there? But TSM is going to lead this AI era. It's definitely going to lead the AI era. We're seeing companies like Tesla and everybody else making their chips from TSM because they are the GOATs there.
All right. I love it. Jose, congrats on AMD and Nvidia. Jose joins us every week, gives us a good 25 minutes of really important due diligence. There is his newsletter right there on the screen, his YouTube in the chat. Please make sure to subscribe so
Thank
you're
you.
updated on the semis. And yeah, dude, we'll see you next week. I know you're gonna have a good day anyway. I don't need to tell you to have a good day.
Yeah, definitely. I'm already thinking what I want to do for what I'm buying for lunch, what I'm buying for dinner. I'm gonna call the wife. What's like? Let me know whatever you want today.
It's okay for money, but it's like, you can get $50 sushi today. Why not get some steak for dinner?
All right, man. Appreciate it. I hope I provided value to the community. Your community is awesome, man. So thank you for having me. And hopefully see you this week with some of these earnings coming up in the semiconductor market.
Yeah, we'll have probably Jose on Thursday or Friday to recap some of the other semiconductor earnings, ASML and TSM, and we'll talk to you then.
Yep. Peace out, man.
Talk later, man. All right, folks, there you go. So those are some semiconductor updates. We do have some breaking news from Tesla right here, which is why we're seeing a little bit of a move on Tesla. Apparently, Tesla 314, the headline is, the director of North American sales leaves. Troy Jones, vice president of sales, services, and delivery in Tesla's largest market, has departed after 15 years. Now, he could just be leaving because he's moving on to another part of life, or he could be leaving because he doesn't like what he's seeing. I mean, it could be one or the other. Street's obviously a little negative on that. Not too crazy, down about 0.5%, but still, that is the headline on Tesla. UNH, yeah, I don't know what's going on with that one. That seems like maybe DOJ stuff. That one's down 3%. All the insurance names taking a nasty hit. Again, if you're in UNH, it's really a 3 to 5 year play. It is not a move you should be expecting tomorrow. I mean, it's way too big of a company and it has too much scrutiny behind it. Still undervalued, but it's just not going to make that, 10% move the next day. Lemonade, Oscar, all of them down as well. But it's a defensive. It's a healthcare that's defensive that is undervalued right here. Oscar down about 1%, but it looks like some DOJ stuff. Maybe I'll see if there's any headline could be causing that to get hit. AMD still at 156. Palantir just below 150. We did hit 150.6. Robinhood 100.11. And then Tessie right here at 315. SoFi 2140. Grab's been holding on to 510 so far all day. I mean, if it closes above it, great, but usually it kind of gaps right back down towards the end of the day. So we'll see how that plays out. The volume on Grab so far today is 13 million shares, which is not too much above what its normal volume is. But you do have some people coming in there. SoFi right there, 2140, and then Tesla, 315. Tesla already kind of recovering based on this news. MP, this one, absolutely massive. They got a DoD investment last week. They got an Apple investment today, total of about $900 million. Call it $1 billion that was invested by two very strategic partners, the Pentagon and Apple. And yeah, that stock, I mean, bullish. Volume, 37 million shares on Materials Corporation, up 28%. It was up 50% last week. Why is Archer up? Well, Joby had some good news about doubling their production, so that's why Joby was up. Archer might be following with Joby. I don't see any specific Archer headline. So it seems like that's following with Joby, but that one is up about 5.5%. Dude, pretty incredible across the board. And it's really nice to see MP make a move because it's showing the market widen out, right? You want to see other names get some momentum outside of just tech. JP Morgan still down on the day, basically flat. Wells Fargo is down 3% still. A little bit more, Wells Fargo. I don't know what the street didn't like in their earnings, but I guess there's something that we got to dive deep into. And then Citigroup, is that green? That one's green. So Citigroup, at least from a street perspective, had a better earnings than Wells Fargo. And that one is green. Meta still low. Again, Jose was highlighting the bull case for why Zuck is spending so much. I do think he's right to be a little worried about if he's being a bit reckless with this money. Then again, I also think it's an AI race to the top. And at the end of the day, like, he's competing in that race. He's going to spend as much money as needed. Meta right there, 716. And he kind of doesn't care. So that stock down a little bit. We'll see on earnings kind of how that plays out. Nvidia 171 and then Palantir 149. Robinhood did get to 101.2. I will check 102 resistance. I don't really think it's a lot. And maybe we can get above those levels right now at 100.34. 102 resistance on Robinhood is 21,000 shares. 21,000 shares. Where's Rocket Lab? Did we get 45? We did not get it yet, but we are close. Let me check 45 on Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab right here up another almost 3% on the day. 45 is 27,000 shares. 27,000 shares. Yes, UNH is absolutely a 3 to 5 year play. We've talked about it many times on the channel. We've had people come on the channel and talk about it. They are deeply undervalued. If you even use a 12% earnings estimate growth compounded till 2030 and a 10 PE, historically they get a 22 PE. So like being conservative, you still get around 450 to 460 on your price target. But dude, the DOJ might launch a massive investigation. I mean, they've already basically launched a massive investigation. That is the headline. That is why you're getting it to be this cheap. If there was no investigation of fraud into UNH, it would not be this cheap. So if you're buying it, you have to buy it knowing and believing that that investigation won't matter 2 years from now. And if it doesn't take down what was the world's 15th largest company, because this investigation turns out to be a nothing burger, or if it's a something burger, it's a slap on the wrist and they move on, then, UNH probably corrects. But until then, I mean, there's no headline or momentum to make this thing move like an Nvidia. So if you don't want the opportunity cost of capital here, then I would not be stuck in this name. Now, granted, if it falls all the way back down to 240, 250, then we got a real issue. I mean, if this revisits the lows of May, back at that 248, right, that's an issue. That's because it should not get that stupid again. And if it does, that means there might be a real underlying structural problem. But I don't know, 280 to 300, if that's the range it's going to chill out in for a while, then it is what it is. Again, if you don't believe in them, you don't buy them. But this is one of the more undervalued plays in the market. The one kind of hedge on a portfolio as well is in 2026, if we get a bit bearish on growth, value will catch a bid. We saw this happen when UNH went to 330 2 weeks ago. And people will pile into defensive undervalued names. S&P is going red. That's another thing that's not helping UNH. I mean, if the broader market's going red, then UNH will probably take a hit. Google getting some red candles. SoFi still holding on to a little bit of green. Tesla getting red, 313 and below. And then Palantir still holding 150. Robinhood trying to hold 100 here. I have not done any DD on GitLab. That's the first time I heard Jose actually say he's bullish about it. I've never looked into GitLab, but it is, I mean, dude, less than $7 billion company. It's not GitHub. People confused that. Microsoft bought GitHub a while ago, but it's a DevOps platform and software. I've never really looked into it. The only thing I know about GitLab is Google had a lot of shares of GitLab back in 2022, but they ended up selling most of those shares by the end of 2023. But Google did, a lot of people thought Google was going to buy them out, but that just didn't end up happening. So, yeah, I don't know more thoughts on them, but I will try to see if there's I'll watch Jose's video and see what his thesis is on why he's excited about GitLab. Jose does not have 10,000 shares of Navitas. He has $10,000 worth of Navitas. Just to not confuse anyone, he's not uber bullish on this. He said it was a YOLO bet. So if you're super bullish on NVTS because Jose is in it, just remember he did not buy 60 grand worth of this. He bought $10,000 worth of it. And it's more of a YOLO play for him. This one has already made its move, though. Like Navitas, I mean, it's gone super up and then super down. Yeah, I mean, this thing it was at 2, got to 8, and now it's back to 6. So, I mean, if you bought it at 8, you're probably annoyed. If you bought it at 7, you're probably annoyed. But if you bought it at 3 or 4, I mean, you're still probably pretty happy. So it's not like this one hasn't made a decent move here. What is the next stock play for you? I've got nothing, dude. I've got nothing. When I get a new idea, I will tell you guys. My only idea right now, which it's not, going to make aggressive volatile moves every day, so it's not that exciting, is Grab. I think it's one of the more safest names. I think it's one of the safest names in the market. I think the community that's being formed around it is incredible, and I'm very happy DCing into that. But outside of that, I don't know, dude. I don't have the problem is I was talking about this with Tanner last night privately, but every day in my chat and his chat, we're seeing these random names get suggested, these like sub $3 billion companies. And that is what makes me a little afraid of the froth in the market. Like people are finding just random stuff that's moving. And then they're like, hey, look at this, it's moving, which is fine. But it's not real investing there, right? Like that's just trading it. And most people are just not traders, right? So when you suggest a stock that's under 3 billion, it's like, do you think it's going to be 30 billion? Do you think it could be 6 billion? What's your time frame? It's like, no, well, the stock's going up, so buy. And that is, I think, a little unhealthy. And so every time I see a new idea, the question is it momentum based or is it an actual idea? I will tell you, Grab is an actual idea. There is no momentum behind it. But like that also means there's no momentum to the downside, hopefully, on it either. It sounds like 21 type of invest. Correct. Now, the good thing is in 2021, we didn't have any tailwind. The Web3 crypto NFT nonsense was not a tailwind. And that's why we crashed and burned. AI is a real tailwind. And that will, create a lot of pumps on a variety of names. But in terms of a real idea, like, I don't have anything that new. Not anything that new. But I think that's okay. We got some winners this year, and we're kind of holding on to these winners. And when I get a new idea, I will share it with everybody. But again, if I present a new idea, like the next idea I'm going to present, like a real idea, by the way, Bitcoin getting hit 116 right here. So Bitcoin getting a little bit of red candle. That's probably bringing HOOD down. Should be bringing Coinbase as well. Coinbase was at 400. Coinbase now 389. All right, that's because of Bitcoin. When I get a new idea, like a real new idea, it'll basically be my 4th pick. It's kind of like, I don't know, I kind of think of them as albums. Like Palantir was the first album. Robinhood was the second. Both of those albums so far have done really well. Grab is the 3rd album. We don't know if it's going to do well, but I think in the next year and a half, it will be a 3rd successful album. And so the 4th one, when I present a thesis, dude, I'm going to be married to that thesis. Now, obviously, if the thesis breaks, I will get a divorce. But like usually when I present a thesis, my style of investing is not, I find this name, I'm excited. Here's a couple of pages of DD. It's like when I find a name, I get obsessed. I mean, I was obsessed with Grab from November to January. And then February, I put out the thesis. And then I doubled down last month on the thesis as the stock has been basically flat. But when I fall in love with the name, like a HOOD or a Palantir, I mean, I ride it through. I try to see if the thesis plays out. That doesn't mean it's going to be right, but whenever I do get that 4th name, your flop album era is coming. Oh my gosh. Hopefully Grab is not the flop album. But whenever I do get a name, I will present it as if like, no, this is like I'm serious. Like I am putting and the funny thing is I will be able to put more money into the next album which is what you're supposed to do as an artist, right? As your music gets more popular, you should have more money to invest in the new album, like to make it better. I like now, you know, as I'm growing, I should be able to put way more money into the fourth name than I put into Grab, Palantir, or Hood, because I should just, you know, have some more money. Yeah, Palantir was Thriller, baby. Exactly. Palantir was Thriller. Palantir was Thriller. And so can we find another Thriller? I mean, Thriller is the only album in history to sell 1 billion records worldwide. Like, I don't know if we find another Thriller, dude. It's hard. It's hard to find another Thriller. We got kind of close with Hoodie. I would say that's probably Bad from 1987 on Michael Jackson. And that album was amazing, dude. People who discount Bad are out of their minds. Bad was one of the best albums of all time. But it's just hard to find another one of those. So Grab's the third one. Grab is the third one. Hopefully the fourth one, I can get Arnie on board. I've been trying to get him on board with Grab, but he's not seeing it. So, you know, I mean, and if he did, I would be even more excited about it. But on the fourth one, I'm going to try to make sure Arnie is a collaborator again. Because if we can both agree on a name. And Arnie doesn't have any new ideas either, bro. I talked to him a lot. He's like, dude, I'm out. The only new idea he had was Apollo. And there's a lot of issues in private equity. And so that one has not, you know, really had any momentum behind it. You kind of got to get some rate cuts to clear up some of the private equity junk. So when that happens, maybe Apollo can have some more autonomy to do what it needs to do. But the other idea he's at is ABCL, but it's more of a long-term thesis. ABCL right here was up 10% yesterday, up 5% today. So that one's down right here. But he has not had a Palantir Hood type of thesis in the past year. So have you peaked? Dude, the thing about every artist is that eventually their music peaks. Like, I'm a Drake fan, dude. I'm a massive Drake fan. Massive. And I will objectively say the past couple albums were, there are some gems on those albums, but when we talk about, you know, a masterpiece of a compilation of work that you're presenting to society, the last couple albums have been garbage. I'm sorry. They've just been garbage. And like, it's not a Take Care. It's not a Nothing Was the Same. It's not those types of albums that are just from start to bottom, just beautiful pieces of work. Now, the thing in the stock market is like, yeah, you could have a peak, but theoretically, if you can keep finding the names, you don't have to have a musician or a basketball player type of a peak. Because musicians, it's really hard to be creative and find, you know, new ideas for music, right? Like, it's very difficult because after you sang about everything you can sing about, what else is there left to sing about? Your content gets boring. And then with sports, like, eventually you get older, right? And your athleticism dies down. With the stock market, if your mental acuteness can stay strong, then you should theoretically, like the Warren Buffetts, like the Stanley Druckenmillers, like the Howard Marks, like the Bill Ackmans, be able to find a new name at least every couple years. At least every couple years. And if you don't, then either you're not doing enough research but like, it's not like, you know, it's not like it's impossible to find the new name. It might be hard based on the market conditions, but it's definitely not impossible. So this game we do get to play for a little longer right here. And, you know, Bill Ackman, Warren Buffett, they've been playing it for their whole life. And they've had some, you know, not good albums. Kraft Heinz for, you know, Warren Buffett. But the majority of their albums have been good. You know, that's important. Did you listen to the new Drake stuff from it? Yes, I like some of his new stuff, but like the albums as a compilation they're just not good. They're just not good. And that really hurts me as a Drake listener, because like, I want a body of work that can live and can stand the test of time. And his recent albums have some hits on it, but they're not complete bodies of work. And it's just sad when you look back to what he was putting out in 2010. You're just like, dude, as a body of work, this is just like not the best stuff. Do we have a Trump tweet? We have a Trump tweet. It's a picture of him with a quote. I believe that my life was saved that day in Butler for a very good reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. Okay. So that is the Trump tweet. No other updates on Indonesia, but he did say again that Indonesia deal is coming soon. I think Indonesia's prime minister put out a statement or something. Hold on. Did they put something out? Let me see. I think we did get a statement from them, which means we should actually be seeing a deal soon, or at least the framework of a deal soon. Let me see if I can get the actual headline, but I do think that was said by Indonesia. All right, I got to find it. But I think I did see that the Indonesian foreign minister said they will be releasing a joint statement with President Trump soon, which should be good. S&P 500 right here going red. 624. DOJ concludes Polymarket investigation favoring crypto betting during Trump era. Okay, I don't know if that necessarily hurts Polymarket that much. Palantir still holding 150. I think everyone kind of knew as well that they were going to have a lot of different elements of crypto betting on the platform last year. But yeah, I think that's the biggest deal in the world for them. Thoughts on RX with Jensen backing? I have not done deep DD on this. I know that people are excited about it because of Jensen, Recursion Pharmaceuticals. This one's down about 2.5. Yeah, I've got to look into it. $2.2 billion market cap. Not everything Nvidia touches necessarily is the best thing in the world. Now, they've had a lot of good winners, but I don't know. I got to go deeper into this one. Anything around pharmaceuticals and biotech is always one of those things that's not the most exciting to me. You guys saying Arnie's next pick is ABCL? Arnie is bullish on ABCL, but Arnie is not pounding the table on ABCL like he was on Palantir and Hood. That's what I mean by the difference. Like when you have an album, you got to promote your album, right? You got to put you got to market your album. Arnie doesn't really tweet about ABCL every day because he thinks of it as I've talked to him privately. He thinks of it as a long-term thesis, either going to go bust or 100x. So it's not one of those names where he's like, this is my next album. I'm going to really promote it. I'm going to be that guy associated with it because he knows, like, at the end of the day, they have to solve issues in regards to the underlying drugs using their technology to be able to come through those breakthroughs. And that either goes 100x or 0. But it's not even a name you can really cover on the day-to-day. Like, there's just not that much news to constantly follow this thing every second, especially because it is in that biotech space. Yeah, ABCL is just a single, exactly. ABCL. That's a good way to frame it. Some of these one-offs are just like Rocket Lab to me was a single, bro. I didn't know Rocket Lab would turn into an album. Now, I'm not taking credit for this album. This is all Vince and Matt Money's album. I just get to enjoy the music here. This is really the Chat's album. You guys have been bullish on this thing for a long time. But it's a hell of an album. It is not a single at all. Rocket Lab right here, 20 cents away. 20 cents away from 45. It's funny how I never trade UNH, but I put on a put credit spread the day before it dumps. Can't make this up. Those put credit spreads, dude, they are wild because you need that stock to stay in a range. And if it doesn't, you lose all your premium. So I don't talk a lot about put credit spreads on the channel. Maybe we'll get deeper into it eventually, but it is risky because you're getting a phenomenal return because you're offsetting your premium on both sides and you don't really need to have the collateral. But the stock better stay in your range because if it goes below your sold put, then the premium from the bought put is not enough to be able to offset the premium from the sold put on the spread. And then you lose all your premium. Now, granted, you can roll the sold put into a regular cash credit put, but you need to have the collateral to do that. And if you can't do that because you don't have the bankroll, you don't have the money to be able to collateralize it, then you just lose all your money. And obviously that sucks. So yeah, hopefully your strikes on UNH are at least a little bit more conservative and they're not like at 297 or something, because this one's definitely taken a beating today, down about 3% on UNH. I think Rocket Lab wants 45, bro. I think she wants it. She's very close. I think she wants it. I think ASTS has a long runway. I agree so as well. I feel like I missed my entry on this, and I don't know, dude. I do not feel comfortable buying it at 49 bucks. I just don't. There's no revenue. I get there's a massive thesis. Amazing. All that. I just like, it's run a lot. I would like a better entry. Maybe that entry is in the high 30s, low 40s, but I don't know. I just rather would not chase this one. But the good thing is you don't need me to chase it. If you're in it, all you need to do is sit back and let the street continue to give it some momentum. UNH pulling a Google right now. The only difference here is Google doesn't have, well, I was going to say Google doesn't have the same regulatory issues, but they do. The DOJ, the European Commission, all of them are down their neck as well. So, like, I mean, you do have Google having the same issues. I don't think it's as deep as UNH. I mean, UNH is legit. You know, they're being accused of fraud. Google, they're just being accused of being a monopoly. So I think they can reasonably manage that. But Google's up 1%. 183.38 right here on Googs. The Amit Drake album would be garbage. Thank goodness Amit found his calling. It is cool though to think of it as like a metaphor, right? Like when you're an artist, your first album is your introduction to the world, and if you get a really good first album, the pressure's on to get the next good album, right? Your sophomore album. And Drake had Thank You Later, which was a classic. Then he had Take Care, which was a mega classic, and then he got Nothing Was the Same, which people say is even better than the first two albums. I don't think Grab's gonna be better than Pounter and Hood, but if it can at least get to 10, then I think it would be a successful third album. And then we got to figure out what the fourth one is. Oh, No Tellin' is such a good song, dude. I wanted to tweet this, but I haven't come up with it on my list yet. I want to make a top 10 songs of all time for Drake. I think I know his music better than most people on the planet, and I think I could objectively create. Obviously, nothing's objective because it's music, it's subjective, but I think like 8 out of 10 people would agree with my top 10 list if I put out, and I really thought about what that top 10 list would look like. Because I've listened to pretty much all of his music. I think I understand his content very well, which is why I can critique his last couple albums were just awful, you know, and it makes me sad as a Drake fan, but I think I can come up with a pretty good list. George, thanks for the $5 super chat. New to options here. How do we know which tax lot shares will be taken if a sold call closes above the price sold? Okay, so you have to check with your brokerage, but on Robinhood, if a sold call gets called away, they will automatically take away any tax lot unless you message them and say, hey, take away this specific tax lot. So I actually messaged them about this. So on Friday, let's say you have Nvidia 170 calls and they get called away. You have until Monday morning to message them and say, hey, take away the shares that I bought back in 2023 versus the shares that I bought yesterday. So you are allowed to message them, and then they just automatically do it. So I'm sure on some brokerages you can select the specific tax lot. You don't have that option on Robinhood. I wish they did, because that would be a lot easier than messaging the support. But if you do get shares called away, all you do is message them. You say, hey, these shares are getting called away on Monday. Please take away these shares, and that's what they do. Why does it not auto do that? It should. I agree, it should. And this is where Robinhood needs to get a lot better when it comes to support and customer service. But yes, it should give you the way to do that. Default is usually first in, first out. I think that's what Robinhood uses. I mean, most likely, if that's the de facto way they use it across the industry, then I would imagine that is what they use. Yeah, that probably is, because usually when a call gets called away, your cost basis goes up because they're taking away the lowest average on your shares, which means your overall cost basis goes up if those are getting sold. So if you want to specify, then you can tell them. And you can just do it in the support. E-Trade has the service, yes. And maybe Robinhood does allow you to pick the tax lot on a covered call. I've never seen it. When I messaged them, they said you have to actually reach out to us in between Friday and that Monday. But I don't see a specific section before you sell the covered call to select the specific tax lot of shares that you get to pick. Are we at 45? Are we at 45? Oh, we at 45, folks. Rocket Lab 45 on Mr. Rocket Lab. My goodness, congratulations to the people in this name. We got to check 46. We got to check 46. 46 resistance, 9,000 shares. 9,000 shares for 46 on Rocket Lab. Dude, this one, it's kind of been quietly just gapping up every other day. It had a bunch of different headlines, and then yesterday it kind of just immediately took off, broke the 30s, and stayed above the 30s, and now you're in that mid 40 range. 45, baby. I don't have any Rocket Lab. Is it too late to buy? Honestly, okay. Objectively in the chat, I'll do a poll on this. What do you guys think? Even if you're super bullish on Robinhood, or not Robinhood, Rocket Lab, is it too late to buy Rocket Lab? And when I mean too late to buy, think about it objectively. If Rocket Lab's going to go back down to 30, don't say, no, it's too late to buy. You're a long-term shareholder. No. Max Payne should be maybe 37, 38 for someone who's new coming into this. Otherwise, they're going to feel like they got rug pulled. So be objective when you answer. Obviously, if you're holding this for the next 30 years, then the question is irrelevant. You should just buy it and hope over the next 30 years it works out. But Do you think this rug pulls back to at least 35? Or do you think it consolidates here? Okay, 60% of you say it's too late to buy Rocket Lab. 30 in a wake up says, huge Rocket Lab owner. I probably wouldn't buy it right now, although Neutron launches, then it could double, but that's a gamble. Yeah, I agree. I agree, dude. I mean, we looked at the valuation on this. It's expensive. It's freaking expensive. So I would also say it's a bit aggressive buying at these levels, especially if you're purely just chasing. Like sometimes you miss it. Like ASTS, I'm not buying this, dude. And I hope it goes to 60 for everybody, but I'm not chasing it here. The risk reward is just not good. There's way too much risk for way too little reward. Now, if you are so bought into the thesis and you don't care for the next 10 years, you're not touching it, then that's fine. But people say that and then it drops 20% and they're like, why did I buy this stupid piece of shit, right? Like that's what I did on Webull. So it's one of those things where you got to kind of assess your own personal situation with the stock. Erwin said he's buying. Erwin's been bullish on this thing since like $5. So Erwin's pulling in a mid on Robinhood. He is averaging up on Rocket Lab. But averaging up is fine. But if you're entering at this level, it's, you know, it's a little, again, the risk reward is just not as aggressive. Is David Sachs on right now? Oh, he's on. All right, here we go. David Sachs is on. Let's see what he's saying about AI. Let me pull this up. Here we go.
Is White House AI and crypto czar David Sachs. It's good to see you. I know you just spoke on a panel about how we win the AI race. So tell us a little bit about how we do that and whether it's happening.
Sure, Sarah. Good to be with you this morning. So President Trump assigned us this mission of winning the AI race. And there's really three ways that I think we do that. Number one is innovation. We have to outcompete our global adversaries. There's just no substitute for innovation. You can't regulate your way to winning the AI race. And in the United States, the innovation is done by the private sector. So it's really the job of government to enable the private sector and get the red tape out of the way. And you're seeing that with respect to energy here in Pennsylvania. Number two is AI infrastructure. We have to have the biggest, the most, the best AI infrastructure. AI applications are very power hungry. These new data centers consume a lot of electricity. We're going to need to make big new investments in power generation and in our grid. And again, that's what we're doing here in Pennsylvania. So we have to, again, drill, baby, drill, and we've got to build more AI infrastructure. And the third is AI exports. We have to basically export American technology around the world. We have to make it the global standard. In Silicon Valley, we understand that the companies that win are the ones that create the biggest ecosystems. They have the most developers on their platform. They have the most apps in their app store. In a similar way, we want American technology to be the global standard. We want the most people using it. We want data centers across the world to be adopting the American technology stack. And so we want to have a mentality of expanding adoption and diffusion of American technology. And so that's how we win the AI race.
I guess on that point, though, we don't want them using our technology against us. And so I wanted to ask you about the big news today, which is that Nvidia stock is reacting to it. The company is now going to be able to restart selling the H20 chips to China. Why does that help us win this race?
Well, so first of all, I agree that we shouldn't be selling our best and latest, greatest advanced semiconductors to China. But the H20 is a deprecated chip. It's not anywhere close to the state of the art. And that's why the Biden administration allowed the H20 chip to be sold to China. So this is a continuation of that policy. And since then, over the past year, we've seen Huawei make huge strides. They introduced a new technology called Cloud Matrix, and they've started selling their exporting their technology to other countries. And so I think it's pretty important that we actually compete and take market share away from Huawei in China. Otherwise, we're basically creating a huge subsidy for Huawei in China. We're giving them all of that market. We're giving them all that revenue to fund their R&D, and we're basically creating a developer ecosystem for them. So I think we don't want to sell China our latest, greatest technology, but I do think we at least want to make it a little bit difficult for Huawei here. We do want to sell them a deprecated chip so they don't run away with that huge part of the market.
It makes sense. What do you know about their capabilities and whether our export controls on chips in particular have worked? Do they have anything that can match what we do? Are they close?
Well, Huawei has a technology called Cloud Matrix 384, and if you look at the Huawei chip, it's called the Ascend chip. It's not as powerful as our chips, like the latest Nvidia chip. The latest Nvidia chip is about 3 times more powerful than the Huawei chip. However, Huawei has used its ability in networking to network more chips together So with Cloud Matrix, they network 384 chips together to produce a result that is comparable in its output to an Nvidia rack system. So what China's basically doing is they're brute forcing it. They're using more chips and they're using more power to achieve a similar kind of result. It's not as efficient as Nvidia, and it, like I said, it consumes a lot more power. So the American chips are better, our technology is better, but China does have an answer to it. And this is why we need to encourage and allow American companies to export our technology across the world, because a lot of the restrictions we've put on our companies are only going to create pent-up demand for the Huawei product. And so, you know, again, we don't want our best chips going to China, but when it comes to the rest of the world, we should be promoting American exports and making it the global standard.
Was Jensen at the White House, was he persuasive on this front to the president?
I think Jensen's been talking about a lot about this publicly. He's been talking about it privately as well. So yes, Jensen is obviously a great advocate for this. But also, look, I think we've just had an American-Chinese trade negotiation. And so I think this is all happening in the context of those deals. There are certain things from China that we want. We want rare earths. We want rare earth magnets. And I think that they need certain things from us or want certain things from us. So I think this is all happening in the context of a larger trade negotiation.
Yeah, Bessent this morning did say this was part of the mosaic of China talks. David, the other big story, of course, is the street getting their arms around the price action of Bitcoin and crypto in general this year. I'm curious to know how you're thinking about that, what's on the line on the Hill this week, and how much stablecoin as a notion kind of changed the game here.
Well, this is Crypto Week on the Hill. The House is going to be passing 3 bills. They're going to be passing the Genius Act, which came from the Senate on Thursday. That's going to go to the president's desk for signature on Friday. That is the stablecoin legislation. It provides the authorizing framework for stablecoins, which are basically digital dollars. It's a tokenized version of the dollar. This will extend U.S. dollar dominance internationally. Everywhere that people have crypto wallets, they can now transact using U.S. dollars. I think you could see entire countries, third world countries, dollarize from the bottom up. This will eventually create new demand for U.S. T-bills, money market funds. And like I said, I think it's going to strengthen the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. So I think this is very exciting. In addition to that, the House is working on a very important piece of legislation called Clarity, which is the market structure bill. It deals with 94% of crypto tokens that are not stable coins, and they're going to be passing that and sending it to the Senate. And then there's also a bill to prohibit CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies, and that will be passing the House. CBDCs are something that the administration said it does not support. The president signed an executive order prohibiting them, but this would make it permanent in the form of legislation.
When do you actually expect, or do you actually expect, a more real use case for stablecoins beyond, crypto transactions? Do you see them as future of payments, like Jeremy Allaire does? He was on the show yesterday from Circle.
I think you're already seeing stablecoins are being used. They're used as the base pair for basically all crypto exchanges. So whenever anyone wants to go in or out of crypto, they do it using stablecoins now. You're also seeing them being used by merchants to accept payments. It is a new kind of payment rail. It's faster, it's smoother, it's cheaper, it's global. It's based on blockchain technology. So I do think that this is a huge emerging use case for stablecoins, is this being the new payment rails for the 21st century. And look, I think that by explicitly authorizing the issuance and adoption of stablecoins, we're going to see an expansion in their use. And a lot of companies that didn't feel comfortable adopting them, like the banking system, like Visa, like MasterCard, are now going to feel much more comfortable because they know that they have a legal framework that has been officially approved and signed into law.
I know you're busy on all fronts, crypto and AI, and your work with the White House. But I do have to ask you, David, about what's going on with Elon Musk, because I know you go way back with him to PayPal days, and now he's talking about this third party. Why do you think that he's fighting President Trump here? And do you find yourself in the middle?
Look, I work for the president, and Elon's a good friend, and I hope that one day there'll be a reconciliation. I do believe that Elon's objectives politically can be achieved and can best be achieved through the Republican Party, and I hope to convince him of that one day, and I hope that there'll be a reconciliation because I think Elon and the president, they were once very good friends, and I hope they will be soon again.
Yeah. Yes. Well, maybe you can play role of peacemaker. David, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it on all the hot topics
Thank
around
you.
AI, crypto.
Thank
David
you.
Sachs from the White House. A lot more coming from the Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit. By the way, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink will be with us.
All right. So this Pennsylvania summit is a pretty big deal. And that is why it's getting this momentum. That's why Trump looks like he's going to be there. Pounty right here, 149. Tessie, 314. Nvidia, 171. Whereas Rocket Lab, that is breaking through 45, folks. She's breaking through 45. Googs might be trying to get a little bit of a bid right here. 183.89, trying to get to 184. And then Robinhood just below 100 at 99.56. At 99.56. Microsoft also all-time highs. Yeah, that one doing great. TLT, we don't talk about it too much because this 10-year is not really coming down yet. 10-year is actually up, folks. 10-year is 4.5% right now. So TLT is in the gutter. Even with 2 rate cuts, I don't know if TLT is going to make that big of a move this year. But no one kind of cares that much about the bond market. I don't know if you guys have been seeing what's going on in Japan. We talked about it yesterday. 30 years getting pretty damn high in Japan. Market's kind of ignoring it because at the end of the day, are you really selling Nvidia because of Japanese bonds? I mean, maybe not. Bitcoin right here just below 116, Nvidia 171. And the market here maintaining some of its momentum. And the thing about Japan also, again, we talked about this last week, but one of the arguments might be from the Japanese population, or at least Japanese investor class, that we're buying assets outside of Japanese debt. And Bitcoin might be one of those things. MetaPlanet, one of the main Japanese MicroStrategy type of companies, has been able to get a lot of momentum, $7 billion company, because they've convinced people, hey, would you rather buy Japanese debt or buy something that actually is not going to debase your currency and that has a fixed supply, which is Bitcoin. So I don't think that's the death of Japanese bonds, but that does mean there are some inflows that are leaving and getting into some of these other assets. Diego, thank you for the $20 super chat. What are your grab call options and how would they make profit? When would you consider closing them? My grab call options, I've talked about it before. I just feel like I'm going to show you guys. I'm just going to show you the freaking options. Like at this point, let me just bring up the options so we can all look at it together. Okay, so here are the options. It's very similar to what it looks like on SoFi, but this is what the options look like. So can you guys see this? All right, so these are the max amount of spreads you can buy on Robinhood because they have a 5,000 contract limit. I have 2,500, as you can see right there. So these are $7.50, $10 call debit spreads. $7.50, $10 call debit spreads. As you can see, I paid 34 cents for them. They are worth 30 cents, so I'm down $10,000. It's an $85,000 position, and then I have around 15K worth of stocks. So it's 85,000 options, 15K worth of stocks. That's a 6-figure position. 2,500 of them. And I mean, I'll just show you guys. The simulations get kind of wild. Let's say grab is, let's say grab goes to $10 by freaking 2027. Let's just do, well, yeah, we'll do 10. That's where you get the max profit. If it went to 10 today, the contracts would be worth 154,000. If it gets to 10 by 2027, which is what I'm looking for, let's do 15 just so it adjusts the chart. It will be a $500,000 profit. So if we can get grab to $10 by 2027, January 15th, it'll turn 85,000 into $500,000, which would be pretty cool. Now, so the part of your super chat was, when do you plan on selling them? It depends, right? So let's say grab is 850, which is above my long call strike by October 2026, November. That's still $172,000. So grab doesn't have to double. That's still a 140% return from the initial price I put in, even if grab is below the strike price I need to get to, which is 10 by November. And if I don't want to take the risk going into the last 2 months of it getting to 10, I might sell it right there. If grab is at, $6 and it's like May and I don't think I can get to 10 by the end of January, I could still sell out right there. I would make $2,000, but at least I don't lose any money. So it really just depends. But my bet is that this will be $10 by 2027. And then that profit would be about $539,000. So that's the bet. That is the bet that I'm making on grab. And again, it's a call debit spread. I paid 34 cents for them. They're worth 30 cents. You're not going to be able to get them to fill at 30 cents. It's actually probably worth closer to 35 to 40 cents right now. especially that grabs over $5. But the option pricing is always weird because it's a leap. So as theta decays, the option pricing will become more aggressive. Google right here. Are we at 184? There she goes. 184 on Google. 184 on Google. But that is the play that I have on Grab. If it goes above 10, I am not entitled to any profits above 539,000. So for example, let's say Grab goes to like 500. My profit will still be max 539,000. That's where spreads are worse than leaps. If you buy leaps and Grab goes to 500, I mean, your profit, your potential for profit is infinite. But granted, do I think Grab's going to 100x in 2 years? No, right? But I think it can double. And so if it can double, all I need is 10. And that's when the options get very juicy. This is what I did on Robinhood, right? Bought Robinhood at 8. I needed it to go to 20. I needed a 3x. It 3x, and it was a nice multi-six-figure profit based on this call debit spread strategy. But it has to actually play out. I have a very similar setup for Fubo. Yeah, I mean, Fubo, ultimately, at the end of the day, the time, like no one should be selling covered calls on Grab right now. You don't sell covered calls on something that's barely up year to date for what, like 50 cents a premium? Like, this is the time to be buying calls. Now, I wouldn't be buying short-term calls because you never know if that can go up or down. But I'm not opposed to leaps on this. And you guys don't, I did January 2027 because that was the longest expiry when I bought them 6 months ago. You guys can do December 2027 if you're not in this, if you believe in Grab. And by December 2027, you're paying a little bit more for the time, but you have an extra year for this thing to make its move, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world. And so ultimately it's up to kind of where you think it plays out over the coming years. My Lyft spreads have a 1.2 million return. Nick, what's your strikes on Lyft? I'm curious. And how much would the return percentage be to get you to 1.2 million? Is that like a 4x, 5x, or what are you looking at there? I have 2,500 contracts. I want more, dude, but Robinhood has a 5,000 contract limit. And technically I have 5,000 because I bought a call and I sold a call. So 5,000 divided by 2, 2,500. But I messaged them. I was like, guys, like, please. They're like, no, it's about safety. I was like, guys, like, just let me buy the freaking contracts. And they're like, we can't let you. It's a regulatory thing. And I was like, all right, I guess I don't have enough pull over Robinhood to get them to. I would have like 3,500 contracts if I had the ability to. I just believe a $10, I think, or at least close to 10 by January 2027. I think it's possible. Now, I might be wrong, but this is where you got to show if you have conviction or not, right? I could open a new position at Fidelity. So I just love having everything on Robinhood, bro. Like I've used the other brokerages. I don't love them, but I don't know. I also think maybe it's good that they only let me buy 2,500, so I don't go crazy on this with too many. But yeah, I think it's enough, and hopefully the thesis can play out. All right, Trump just tweeted about crypto. He said, "Happy Crypto Week. The House will soon vote on a tremendous bill to make America the undisputed #1 leader in the digital assets part of our economy. Nobody does it better. The Genius Act is going to put our great nation light years ahead of China, Europe, and all others who are trying to endlessly catch up, but they just can't do it. Digital assets are the future, and we are leading by a lot. Get the first vote done this afternoon. All Republicans should vote yes. This is our moment. Digital assets, genius, clarity. It is part of making America great again, bigger and better than ever before. We are leading the world, and we'll work hard with the Senate and the House to get even more legislation on this passed." Bullish for crypto, bullish for hoodie, bullish for Coinbase. I mean, very bullish. What if you do another 1,000 contracts for December? You can't do any more contracts after you hit the limit. So it's not based on expiry. It's based on total contracts. So they would not let me buy any contracts at all. Like, I have more contracts in my Roth, but that's because my Roth is a separate account. For the Roth, I have, I think, $7 calls for December 2027. I think I have like 90 of those in the Roth. So I do have some more calls in the Roth account. The limit is 5,000 contracts, but it's a spread. You buy and sell 2 contracts, so 5,000 divided by 2. That's why it's 2,500 spreads. The bill is super positive for ETH. Tom Lee for the win. I mean, I don't see how any of this stuff is bearish Ethereum. BMNR goes red on the day. BTBT, even after the dilution, is barely down. And then SBED was up 20%. SBED is up 7%. So that one took a little bit of a hit, but still pretty green on the day. I mean, it's time for Ethereum to make its move. Either Ethereum's going to be the thing that a lot of Wall Street is betting on it to become. Ethereum just below 3,000 right here. Or it's going to stay stuck. but we are going to have to see. So the downside to this is Grab stays below 750. That is the downside. So let's say Grab is at $5. As you can see, if we go to the logical extreme of the contract by January 2027, I would lose my initial, which would be 85,000. So I really need Grab to be above 750. That's the long end of my strike, of my call. So I bought the 750 call, sold the $10 call. I need it to be above 750. I mean, it can literally be above 750 until 2 weeks before expiration, and I'm still going to be relatively green. This simulation might not be exact, but I'll probably be able to get out break even, if not up about 12,000 bucks. But if we get anywhere near 10, let's say we get to 9. I mean, look at that. If it's at 750, I make 12,000. If it's at $9, I make 284,000. This is why I like spreads. You don't have to have it become exactly close to your strike price. As long as it's above the long end of the call and very close to the short end of the call, which in this case is 10, you can still capture a decent amount of premium. And then obviously if it gets to $10, it would be a $500,000 profit. But Grab's got to make its move. And if we get to 20, if we get like, so the only thing about, like, let's say the stock goes to 20, I don't get any more money than what is the max profit you can get. But the theta decay works in my favor because I'm so deep in the money that if it went to 20 tomorrow, the contract would be up 400 grand. I'd probably sell because there's no point of waiting a year and a half for an extra 100 grand. Like the risk wouldn't be worth it. So, I mean, it's just, or I would at least take out my initial at that point, right? So the closer it goes up, or the more it goes up, the closer I get in the money, the more valuable the contract becomes before the actual expiration date. How come it doesn't decay so bad? Is that the spread? Exactly. So remember, you're selling a call. And when you sell a call, what happens? You become part of Theta Gang. Theta works for you when you sell a call because you want Theta to constantly decrease every day as you're getting into the expiration of the contract. And ultimately, you want the contract to be worth zero. But when you buy a call, you need Theta to work for you, which means you need the stock price to move quicker at a higher velocity than Theta can catch up to the stock price. So when you combine both of them on top of each other, when you buy the call and sell the call, the premium you pay for the contract significantly goes down because you're getting the premium from the sold call and you're covering the sold call with the bought call. That's why it's a quote unquote covered call, even if you're not using 100 shares. And if Grab were to go to like 450, the spread would decrease in value, but it's not like if I had a leap Grab going to $4-3, it would just get destroyed, right? Because the sold call goes up in value because the premium gets higher, given that Theta is working in my favor. So, yeah, well, again, in options 301, we'll go much deeper on call debit spreads. I know we've been meaning to do this with Jason. By the way, guys, Jason's not going to be doing Technical Tuesday today. He just messaged me that his wife is sick. She has a Crohn's flare-up. So, yeah, we will not be doing Technical Tuesday today because he's not going to be able to make it. But we will get options 301 out there and we'll explain call debit spreads in depth. Chris is the one who taught me this strategy 2 years ago. And it's been the way I've approached leaps on stocks that I'm bullish on. Obviously, if you just buy the leap straight out and you're right, you're going to make a lot more money. But also, you know, what if you're wrong? And so you do want to have a little bit of that hedge with the sold call on top of the bought call. So that's what we got for these spreads. We talked about the Trump crypto news. We saw David Sachs. Yeah, the downside is I lose 85K if Grab is below 5 by expiration. And that's kind of the risk towards it. And how many hours is the Energy and AI Summit? Okay, so it should, like, I don't know when Trump speaks, but it's happening like now. Like the summit's happening literally right now. So I'm going to try to get the details. But, you know, Bloomberg saying that Karp's going to be there with Trump, which would be really exciting to see. The question is, when should we expect that to happen? Oh, Larry's on. Let's see what he has to say about a bunch of things. Let's see if we get anything from him.
Organic growth is great.
Fee growth 6%. That was above
fee growth,
expectations.
but our entry level going into the third quarter because of where you know the market went down quite a bit in April and rallied all throughout the year. So our entry level in the third quarter is up 5% already in fee growth. Then on top of the closing of HPS on July 1st, our fee growth going into the third quarter is up 10%. And so
what are they missing?
They think our expenses may be too high, and our expenses are all front loaded. We do that because we are.
Basically, he's being asked why the stock's down 5% after a great earnings right now. And I haven't gone through their earnings, but it was a pretty damn good earnings. Almost 13 trillion, 12.53 trillion in AUM versus 12.12 expected. So, I mean, I would be confused if I was Larry Fink as well, what the street is upset about.
Very aggressive on culture. And we try to bring everybody on board. HBS team is going to be moving in tomorrow into our headquarters, so we have co-rents for a little bit until we navigate that. But the key of any acquisition is building one key culture. And I think, so our expenses have been front-loaded. We kind of telegraph that. But I'm thrilled where we are. I'm thrilled about our position with our clients. Our shareholders, by the way, today, since we have many shareholder calls, we're thrilled about the opportunity. So this is just Wall Street's hedge funds going in and out of the market, and that's fine. They play a market. They play a market role, and so I'm not against anything like that. But long term, I'm a huge buyer of BlackRock at these prices.
Okay, and you've been a huge buyer of other companies. HPS, you referenced one deal, but the deal I want to talk about, which is why we're here.
Yes.
GIP, Global Infrastructure Partners. Okay, I don't want to be too nice. That was a hell of a time deal. And that hasn't even fallen in.
And this is one thing about what we're doing here in Pittsburgh related to doing more public and private. And that's what, Senator McCormick's announcing here today in Pittsburgh. But much of it has to do is working with private capital, unlocking private capital, accelerating permitting processes to get more things done. And so we believe the golden age of infrastructure investing is just beginning. We announced last year we're in the midst of a $30 billion raise specifically for infrastructure around data centers and AI. And our partners, Nvidia, Microsoft, XAI, MGX of Abu Dhabi, and we announced now we have the Kuwaitis as a big investor, as we announced Singapore's Temasek will be a big investor in this fund. We are in the midst of raising this full $30 billion of equity.
Yeah.
Now, once we start putting projects in the ground, we're going to have to raise probably another $100 billion of debt. And so this is just the beginning, and this is why I think the magic of BlackRock and GIP was so dramatic.
But here's the dirty little secret of it. Let's say Nvidia. We're not picking on Nvidia, amazing company, right? $4 trillion market cap. Nvidia can build all the chips at once for data centers, Larry. And you can build all the data centers that we want.
But you need energy.
We need energy, but we also need the last mile. We need a power line that goes.
All right, so here he goes. Let's see what he says about energy. He's probably not going to name any specific names, but VRT, VST, Constellation, GE Veranova, Next, VG, Oklo. These are the names in regards to energy that you would imagine BlackRock is probably pretty bullish on.
From the energy source to the energy user, that is largely state regulatory issues, right? Federal, state. There's only so much BlackRock can do about that. But how do we fix that?
So that, I think, this is where President Trump's administration with Secretary Burgum is really important on, they have an office now within his remit to streamline permitting. It doesn't matter which state it is to try to accelerate permitting. Obviously, you have federal government permitting, then you have state and local permitting, as you suggested. This is really important to unlock. And if we can't unlock that, we're not going to grow. If we're not going to unlock this, it's going to be harder and harder to build out these AI data centers. These AI data centers could represent as much as 1 gigawatt of power, as you know.
Or more. By the way, that's again, about 750,000 average-sized homes, just because these numbers are weird. Right. Very quickly, can we do all this, Larry? Can we do all this growth? Can we do all this energy investing with the threat of tariffs? Does that cloud everything?
I think tariffs are a whole different matter. Investing in the United States, we can continue to do it. Now, the big issue is we have copper tariffs, and we'll see
those are needed for electrical lines.
We need those for electrical lines. So yes, all of that is going to throw some questions in there. And you raised a good question, but the answer is I think there's enough private capital to put the money to work, working with state and local governments, working with the hyperscalers. And we need to make sure we do this because the U.S. has to win and lead in AI and infrastructure. It is imperative. And so, we need to find these solutions and we need to rapidly find the solutions. The money is there. The opportunity is there. BlackRock is going to be integral in this process, and then when you add what we just did with HPS, that's going to give us
Basically, BlackRock is trying to get an AI multiple, even though they are not an AI company. But Larry Fink's like, well, if you're going to have all this AI build out, there's going to need to be funding. We're going to be involved. So you kind of got to put them in the AI bucket, the energy bucket, the data center bucket, even though they're not an energy or data center company, because they're going to be involved. And that funding obviously should be very beneficial to BlackRock's overall margins over the next decade.
It's a great ability to do that $100 billion of debt that we talked about too. So we're very excited about our positioning, but I don't want to underscore the need for data and analytics, and that's why the Precoin transaction was so important. All this happened over the last 12 months. We closed this, but I would say the biggest announcement we made today is, as you said, 6% organic revenue growth. I mean, base fee growth, and at a time when you had a really terrible market in April, at a time when we were doing all these mergers and consolidations, this is just the beginning. I am more optimistic about what we could do at BlackRock. I was in Asia last week. The conversations I'm having with more clients worldwide has never been more robust and more opportunistic for us to grow on behalf of our shareholders.
Well, we are glad that I think it shows the power of the energy opportunity that Larry Fink and BlackRock are here at this event in Pittsburgh at Carnegie Mellon University. Now you've got a panel. I'll let you get down there. A lot of hitters here, guys. You got Amazon Web Services. You've got Google here. We've got BlackRock here as well. It's not just industry. Larry Fink, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
All right, there you go. There you go. Mr. Larry Fink trying to get his AI multiple. I don't know when the Trump stream is going to be. It might be 2:30, might be 3 o'clock. So I will see when. Maybe we'll be able to go live early for it. If not, we'll definitely cover it on the market close. So we'll try to see. And even if they have a set time, it usually ends up being like 30 minutes to an hour after that time. So hopefully we see Karp there. I mean, Bloomberg reported Karp will be there. I would imagine if there's that many AI leaders at this Pennsylvania conference, I didn't even know there was a Pennsylvania conference happening, but it seems like everyone's there, then that could obviously be very bullish to see Karp there and to see what Trump has to say. S&P 500 right here, 625, basically flat on the day. Nvidia still holding 4%, which I think everyone's happy about. Palantir just below 150. We did hit 150.62. Grab right here holding 510. Reddit 146. SoFi 2138. AMD, amazing day, 156. And then Robinhood just below 100. Nvidia 171. There you go. That's what we got, folks. That is what we got. What a day so far. What a day so far. Nvidia 4.2 trillion. Palantir 150. Broader market not moving like crazy, but some of these names, Rocket Lab 45, absolutely incredible. And it looks like the actual news we're getting on AI Buildout, it's not slowing down. And if it's not slowing down, then this market probably has a lot more room to continue. All right, I think that is it for me. Word of the day. I don't know how to say this. What is this word? Whittier Ward. Whittier Ward? Whittier Ward? Has anyone, there's no way anyone's ever heard of this word. Whittier Ward.
Witherward.
Wither. Dude, that's actually a little too obvious. Wither. Yeah, why was I saying Whittier? There's no I in front of the E. Yeah, that actually makes sense. Wither Ward. That's actually easy, bro. Wither and Ward. I don't know why I was making that complicated. Whittier Ward. No, Wither Ward.
Witherward.
Toward what place in what direction? They paused at the crossroads, uncertain. Whither Ward, the old map pointed. The balloon drifted higher, and the child wondered whither ward the winds would take it. Well, we know what direction Nvidia's going. We don't need to be whither ward about that, even if that probably makes no sense the way I used it. But we are likely not unclear about the direction in which Nvidia's going. She's going up. She's going up. Actually, in the words of Steve, see, this is why I said we need to make this GIF, because now we can use it. This is why I said we need to make this GIF, because now we can use it. In the words of Steve right here, it's going higher. This is the best GIF ever, dude. It's the best. It's the best. It's the best one on the market. I got to find the actual clip to show you guys on the market close. It was like, I was like, so where are we going? This is what he did. Higher. There you go. Shout out to Uzi. He sent me that. Shout out to Uzi. Sent me that that GIF. It's GIF, not GIF? What? No freaking way. It's a G. Dude, hold on. No, I've been saying GIF for like, why does this happen every freaking day? We have a revelation on how do you say? Okay, hold on. Google saying the GIF file format is commonly pronounced with either a soft G sound like the J in GIF, peanut butter, or a hard G. Okay, so I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. You guys cannot say I'm wrong on this one. Google saying it's both. Google saying it's both. The creator said it's GIF with a J, not a G. Is it GIF? Do people call it GIF? I've always thought it's GIF. What does the G even stand for? What does GIF stand for? Oh, graphic. Oh, shit. Graphic interchange format. Came out in 1987. That's probably GIF then. If it's a graphic, if the G stands for graphic, then it's probably GIF. I thought it was GIF though, bro. Why did I think it was GIF? Okay, hold on. Let's do a poll. Okay, we're gonna end the chat on this poll. We gotta see. We gotta see. Which one? Is it GIF or GIF? Or GIF? Which one? GIF or GIF? Dude, if this is like 80-20 with the G, I'm gonna be flabbergasted, bro. Give me 50-50, bro. Give me 50-50. Why is it 83-15? Oh my gosh. Why didn't you guys tell me I was saying it wrong the whole time? It's literally 80-20 now. Why didn't no one decide? I've been saying this for the past like 3 weeks. There are 20% of you that agree with me though. Yeah, Jiffy Lube. I mean, like it's a GIF. All right, whatever. All right, it's a GIF. We've been telling you for 3 weeks. Well, the GIF from Steve kind of indicates where we're going on Nvidia. So there you go. I've told you every time. 20% of you need to go back to school. Oh my gosh, dude. GIF is peanut butter. That is true. GIF is peanut butter. Amit would have been the #1 debater if he was able to pronounce his words. His arguments were perfect. His pronunciation, not so much. Yeah, maybe that's why I was #7 instead of #1, bro. Maybe it was freaking pronunciation. All right, that is it. Thank everybody for being here. We learn a lot every day. I hopefully, get to cover some of the breaking news in the markets and explain what's going on and kind of be a vehicle to figure out how to navigate a lot of the breaking pieces of news that we get. And in return, at the end of the stream, you guys teach me something that, quite frankly, any regular human being should know. But did you remember when Trump said Nile yesterday? The Nile? I knew that the Nile was in Egypt now because of you guys. I thought it was in Jordan last week, but you guys make sure that I learn something important every single day at the end of the stream. Mukabi, thank you for the $10 super chat. Here's a gift for you. Okay, that was funny. That was a good one. That was funny. Thank you, Mukabi. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for the $10 super chat. And thank you for being here. All right. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back on the close. We'll cover all this Pennsylvania AI stuff. We will not have Technical Tuesday today because Jason's wife is a bit under the weather. So hopefully we'll have it next week. Next week might have earnings though. So it might be a little tough to have Technical Tuesday during earnings week. So we might try to find a different day to do it just because Tuesdays are going to be big for tech earnings. So we'll figure it out. But we'll be back on the close and we'll see what's going on with Pennsylvania AI. I might start early. I might start at like 3 o'clock, maybe if Trump goes live earlier. So we'll see. If not, then we'll just cover it on the close and we will keep going from there. Later, Jader. Okay, this is funny. I'm going to get trolled on this JG thing forever now, but I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I will see you guys later on the market close. Feta Juni. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Bye, everybody. See you guys in a bit.